All right. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. All right, welcome to Friday Night Torah Study. Yeah. I know a lot of you are confused. No, I'm not Elder Billy. So let me introduce myself, because I know most of you don't know me. I'm kidding. All right, so Elder's on a family vacation of sorts, so he'll be out for a little bit here, so he'll be back next week. But in the meantime, we're going to get our Friday night Torah study done, and we're going to begin. Okay, so those of you who are new, let me kind of explain. We're going to do praise and prayer, which means you take up any prayer or praises from the congregation, including you on live stream. Then we're going to do the reading of this week's Torah portion, V'chanan, and then we're going to have some announcements, and then I'm going to come back out, and we'll do a midrash, or at least I'll give my. We got a lot of points that I want to hit, so I don't know how much midrashing we're going to do, but I have a lot of points to hit in this week's Torah portion. It is Deuteronomy. There's more than enough stuff to deal with every portion. So, all right. So we'll begin with praise and prayer. We'll begin with Delia.
Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi.
Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you. I'm asking prayer for Chris Wybe. He's under the weather. And so if you could, everybody could just pray for him. And he may or may not be here tomorrow. And so the other thing is that my elder cat, who is 18 years old, Hadassah, and she was very thin and had lost a lot of weight lately and was quite sick. She left the house on Wednesday, and she hasn't been back. So just keep me up in prayer for that.
Amen. Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. And animals will do that sometimes, especially cats, just to go off and pass somewhere. So that's something that they do. Yeah, they do that.
Yeah, she was my cuddly girl. She hugged me all the time.
I understand. All right, so we're going to put the podium back in place here. All right, Ali.
Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi.
Shabbat Shalom.
I have my permanent residency.
Hey! Thanks for the heads up and warning.
Yeah. Praise Yahweh. The American government, they're interesting. USCIS, yeah. I'll leave it at that. So, praise Yahweh.
But you got your permanent residency, so, okay. That's...
Yeah. Anyways, so also prayers for a job opportunity. Today I went to MCA, did an interview. Caleb Horn's employer. I might get the job. We'll see. I just prayers that Yahweh will have his way.
Awesome. We certainly can pray for that. All right, Jessica.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. So just prayers for Aurelia. She's not feeling well, so got that sick creature quarantined on her side of the house. And then also prayers because I'm coming up for my raise at work at the new job, and so prayers I get it. And then also prayers for the people that work under me because, yeah.
Spoken like a true supervisor. Look, listen, just for all of you that have only been under and not over, being over is not a whole lot more fun than being under, trust me, okay? All right, just so you know. You think, oh, well, wait till I'm the boss. Yeah. Yeah, don't think that's going to be a party, okay? All right, Marlene.
I think it's a party.
Well, you're not over anybody. Kind of makes it easier for you.
Yes, I am. No, I'm saying it's a party with you, Rabbi. You know, we have a party all the time.
No, I mean for the supervisor dealing with all the people, right?
It's not a party dealing with me. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying that from yes, I am. No, it's not a party dealing from either direction. I'm just saying is if you're underneath and you think, oh, it's so terrible being under, wait till I'm over. But when you're over, then there's other issues the other way. I mean, it's just, working for me is not a party either necessarily all the time. Just it goes back and forth. So that was kind of my point, right? Everybody thinks the grass is greener on the other side of the other side of authority. How's that? Okay? And it's just not, okay? What'd you say? It's browner. The grass is not greener, it's browner. Yeah. All right,
But
Marlene.
if you bring the party, it's always a party.
Well, she's yellow. She always brings a party. Okay. I don't bring any party. I'm the party pooper.
Oh.
Wah, wah, wah.
Wah, wah, wah.
Okay, I'm gonna get to the point. So
You guys act up like this when elders up here? Okay, just checking.
no, Elder's not cracking jokes like you're cracking jokes all the time.
That's true. Okay.
So I just want to give a praise that Yahweh's been dealing with me of overcoming some of my white storm issues. Apparently, I didn't realize that I was still dealing with that. So apparently, I had some kind of root of bitterness for I don't know, over a year, probably even 2 years. And I didn't know it was me until I finally faced it and expressed myself. And when I finally expressed myself, just ripped off the Band-Aid and just, said it how I wanted to say it and was honest, Yahweh said, hey, look, it's you.
There you go.
And so then I felt free. I felt like it was a breakthrough. I had a weight lifted, so it's just really incredible the journey of self-discovery as we continue to listen to you and do the things that you tell us to do every week, every zone, every time you're telling people what to do. If we can apply that to our own lives, we will really be on the path of transformation. So thank you.
You're welcome. There's some people say that the joke of, I've seen the enemy and it's me, right? Some of you think, of course it is you, Rabbi. We think it's you all the time. No, I'm kidding. But the thing is, when you're going through this whole transformational thing, I want to say this and be really careful with this. First of all, you should always ask, is it you? However, I don't want you to be like the sort of negative Nellies who always believe it's them. It's not always you, but you should ask, because if it's you, then you have the simplest way to fix it is if it's you. If it's somebody else, it's hard to fix, okay? So you should always ask if it's you. I want to just caution all of you that automatically blame yourself and, of course, think it's you. That's not necessarily the case. Ask up here, not down here in the heart, right, in the head. Logically, is this me? Okay? And if the answer is yes, then you have the power to make the adjustments and fix it, or get the counsel to make the adjustments and fix it. But it may not be you. But don't automatically assume it's not, or automatically assume it's you. Ask. Be open to whichever way it is, right? Okay. Because as you can see in Marlene's case, finding out it was her was very freeing and gave her the ability to deal with it because she realized that she had been the problem in that particular thing. Okay? All right? But I do talk to a lot of you who basically just automatically assume if something goes wrong, it's your fault. And it isn't always the case. It may often be, but it isn't always. And so, kind of look at it from both perspectives. All right, live stream.
All right, from Tina Schneider. Please pray for Palori and 85, myself and our family. Unspoken prayers for a rough situation. From Rachel Stone, please pray for my 9-year-old son Jacob, who is with his father trying to keep Shabbat while adjusting to new stepmother and step-siblings and disapproval from his father. From Vaskin, prayers for quick healing, feeling under the weather. From Lise, praise Elohim for his Sabbath coming up in 4 hours, and prayers for firefighters coming to Washington State to help with the wildfires. From C-Star Hicks, praise to Yahweh for my friends I'm taking care of. The neck and back fusion is doing great, and other friends healing great. Thank you, Yahweh, for giving me strength and overcoming the situation. From Larry and Z, please prayers for our family for healing, for ongoing health issues. From Walk Softly Upon the Earth, huge praise update that some amazing paperwork news has been dealt with this week, and we paid for a new roof in cash. Great way to live. Now we save for the next project. From Amy Henderson, prayers I get transferred back to Cleveland. And then we just got some unspokens, and that's it. We're caught up.
All right, sorry, the mic thing was out of whack here. Okay, did you have something, Rick? Okay, so a couple of things I want to add here. So first of all, one of the things that was mentioned was, saving up for the next project after paying for whatever project. There are things that do come up in life that surprise you, but not really that many if you really think about it. They surprise you because you didn't think that they were things that would normally come up. Like, for example, if you own a house, at some point you might need to put a new roof. Okay, if you own a car, you got to have to do things like tune it up, change the brakes, do something with the timing belt or whatever on certain, but you should be budgeting and planning for these things. Because otherwise, when they do finally show up and you're not ready, it's a problem. But if you know they're coming, why are you not preparing for it? Okay? Because it's going to happen. I mean, these things are going to happen, and then you get all angry. I talk to people all the time who are so mad. Oh, and then this happened, and it wouldn't have been upsetting if you were prepared. Because these are things that normally do happen. Not the surprise things that, pop up. That's why you should have your $1,000 emergency fund for the surprise things. But even the surprise things are things that you could expect at some point. Maybe an expensive appliance may break, okay, or something with your car or whatever. But if you know that these things are done on a regular enough basis, like let's say you have a car and you know you're going to need a new one in 5 years. Why are you not putting aside for it now so when you get to 5 years from now, you just get the new one or the new used one, whatever, right? Because you already know these things are coming because you're too busy dealing with right this minute, okay? And that it's funny because you like to think about anything but this minute when you want to be worried and have anxiety and be depressed because then you're thinking about the future or the past. But that's from a worry perspective instead of a planning perspective. Learn from the past, plan your future, okay? And then you won't have these problems. These things are all, listen, if you were in business, that's one of the things that businesses always do is they have to think about the obsolescence of any of their equipment and how often it has to be replaced and budget for it, okay? Because you may have technology that goes out of style every 5 years or less. So you may need to upgrade things, however often. Software, probably every year, right? Certain hardware, maybe every 2 or 3 years. But you got to budget for it. It's got to be built in. Your life should be the same. Okay, you have things, if you think about it, you should ask the question, what is likely to break or need to be replaced in the next 5 years? Okay? And then go ahead and start planning for it. Okay? By the way, that's the same thing with retirement. You're going to retire. So look, I cannot believe, and I've been saying it each year, right, 59, then 60, then I'm going to be able to start getting Social Security next year. That's just a weird thought. Which means that I should have my retirement finances in order. Now, I'm not planning to retire. Don't get me wrong, okay? I'll keep doing this until I can't do this, which I don't expect to happen anytime soon. But you guys got to know whatever numerical value is in front of that word age, such and such years old, you got to know where you need to be by the bigger number that's coming. You got to plan. My prayer is that you guys will get that finally. And think about, I'm 50 now. One day you're going to be 62 or 65. Maybe one day you'd like to stop doing you know what? Some of you have very hard physical jobs, okay? And it doesn't mean that it has to be physically laborious. Maybe just sitting in a truck and driving it, which is just sitting, is still hard physically, all right? So maybe you can't do that forever. Are you planning for what's going to happen? I talk to people all the time. They're still driving trucks and they're 60 years old. You're not going to be driving forever. What is your plan? My plan is for Yeshua to show up. Don't stop that plan. He's going to show up, but you don't plan for that. You live for that. You understand the difference? You live knowing he's coming. It may be soon. I don't think so soon, but soon, relatively. But you plan like you've got all the time in the world because if he doesn't come, you need to be planning. But you live like you don't have, because more likely you don't have the time than before he actually shows up. I know there's ministries out there all touting end times, end times, end times. Well, that's not me, okay? Because your end times may be right now because you don't know how much time you have. All right, so you live not knowing the time, but you plan in case you get the time. Rabbi Tom easily could have been dead in the last 10 years because when I first met him, he was heading in that direction and didn't look like he was going to make it to where he is now. But he made changes in his life, things happened, and he's in better health now than when I first met him, probably, okay? but you don't know. Okay, that could have been his time. Okay, he had a few surgeries where he might not have come out of the room. Okay? So I'm just saying is you don't know. And every one of you who's at least 40, 50 years old knows somebody that died young. You have a family member or friend that died young. Young meaning like 60 or under. Okay, because 60 is young. I can tell you that now that I'm over 60. Okay? It's young. It might not have been young 100 years ago. It's young now. All right? And so you guys got to be planning. How about taking care of your health? If you're going to live longer, you might want to take care of your health so that you're in better shape when you're living longer. Okay? This is just things that I pray you would figure out. I mean, we know Yeshua's coming. You know you got to do certain things spiritually, but there's all aspects of your life have to be prepared. That's like the Level Up program that I do, okay? Okay, we cover all the areas of your life in that program. And they all require an accurate assessment of where you are, a really strong decision of where you want to be, and planning to be there within a certain time frame. Because you're going to get there anyway, but what condition are you going to be in those areas of your life when you get there? I just want us to get more serious, you know, about redeeming the time and all that kind of good stuff. Because most of the calls I get are people that are in a bad place because they did not plan, okay? The planning was poor. And don't look at me like, oh, listen, I've made a lot of bad planning mistakes. I've learned from them, though. I mean, so if I had that option to go back and fix some things, oh, yeah, I got some things I would have done differently now that I know to plan better. Tell you what, I'm planning like crazy now. I'm planning for what 70, 80, and 90 is going to look like and how, you know, energetic and alive I want to feel and be and function, and financially where that's going to be as well. You know. And some of you guys, when I say financially, you'll think, yeah, but we send you money. Look, I still get a salary, and I've got to manage that money. You understand what I'm saying? I don't have unlimited funds. I don't just tap into whatever's sent here just if I want to. I mean, I actually, technically, scripturally, I could, but I don't, right? I have to manage the choices I make with the funds I have and plan for those things that can derail stuff, like planning for the things that need to be replaced, fixed, or updated as that happens. Okay? You know what's never happened to me in my life? I've never owned a car that hemorrhaged. You know what I mean by hemorrhage? Like money, where it starts just every other month something falls apart on it. Because I always planned not to keep a car that long. I just planned for it. I budgeted for it. I never, once a car started to have those signs, time to get a new car. A different car, not brand new, but a different car. But you guys, because you don't plan for it, you're stuck with that really cheap, beat-up car that's now hemorrhaging. So it's not even saving you money anymore. Something's always wrong with it. It's always down. It's always being worked on. Planning fixes all these things, is all I'm saying. You know, you just got to budget and plan for these things. Because you should know, the car I drive right now, no, it should get a lot of mileage out. It's the kind of car that tends to go, like, forever. But still, I am planning to get a different one at some point because it's already past the 5-year mark. And that's when stuff starts to, between 5 and 10 years, you know, depending on the model. Maybe it'll last forever in terms of how many miles I can put on it, but things are still going to start to go. Need to be replaced. Plan. Okay, my prayer is that you're going to hear those words. And starting right after Shabbat, you'll start planning better. Okay? Including, some of you guys don't even know what to do on Shabbat because you don't plan your Shabbat. Plan your Shabbat. Well, I don't know what to do on Shabbat. Well, think about it before Shabbat. Have a plan on what you're going to do. I'm going to listen to this teaching. I'm going to do services when services are on. I'm going to do the Torah study. I'm going to maybe rest and take a nap. I'm going to do some praying and whatever. What are you going to do? Plan it. You know what I'm saying? Life is so much more joyful and effective when you actually plan things. You waste a lot of time thinking of what to do. If it's planned, then you already know what to do. And by the way, you don't have to stick to the plan. You can choose to switch something and replace it with something else, but at least you had a plan. Because sometimes you need to move things around because stuff pops up you didn't expect. Fine, so move it around. Hopefully I'm making some sense for you guys, all right? Because I don't mind that everybody's hyping end times. Good. If that's what it takes to get you to wake up, then fine. Okay? Because what should it be getting you to do? Wake up. That's kind of the whole point of any end times verse is to get you to wake up. Matter of fact, there are verses that say, wake up, you who sleep, right? Wake up. And so, this is what you need to do. And so it's my prayer that, it's Friday night. Some of you watching, wake up. It's getting a little late where you are. Passing down. All right? Wake up. You got to wake up. All right, I'm going to also ask that we would include the prayers of the people that call here during the week and contact us through email, etc., that we have been asked to pray for them. Also, we'll ask for prayers for the safety of Rebitson and Brianna and Tamara and Olivia in France, okay, that they are continue to be safe in their trip there and get back here on Monday safely, okay? Yeah, all right. They're asleep right now, but they're going to watch this tomorrow when they wake up. Well, not that long till they wake up, but anyway, so they're 6 hours ahead, so it's what? So it's almost 2 in the morning there, okay? So, but as a matter of fact, that's something they had to think about, right? It's Shabbat in another country, and they had a plan. What are we going to do? There's no congregation to go to. They can't watch the live stream right now. It's 2 in the morning. So I said, fine, watch the Torah study when you wake up, because the Shabbat service is already going to be too late. Because by the time we're doing Shabbat service, although their sundown's like 9 o'clock, so they could watch a little bit of the service. It'll start at about 7:30. They get a little bit before the end of the Sabbath. Okay? And so, planning. Planning makes, and so I helped them plan, so they should be in good shape. And that's what it's going to take. All right, amen. Okay, so we're going to open up in prayer. We have Mr. Rick Bohe, it looks like, standing there ready to do our opening blessing, and he's going to pray for the prayer needs as well as open us in prayer.
Show favor, Elohim, for people overwhelm us fighting all day. They oppress us. Our enemies overwhelm us all day long. Many are fighting against us, O Most High. When we are afraid, we trust in you, in Elohim, whose word we praise. In Elohim we trust and do not fear. What can man do to us? All day long they twist our words. All their thoughts are against us for evil. They stir up strife. They hide. They watch our steps as they lie in wait for our lives. Because of wickedness, cast them out. Put down these in displeasure, O Elohim. You've counted our wanderings. You put our tears into your bottle. Are they not in your book? Our enemies turn back in the day we call. This we know, because you are for us. In Elohim, whose word we praise. In Yahweh, whose word we praise. In Elohim we trust. We do not fear. What can man do to us? On us, O Elohim, are your vows. We render praises to you, for you deliver our life from death, our feet from stumbling, that we might walk before you in the light of the living. In Yeshua's name and authority, we bless you. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Excellent job, Rick. All right. Okay, so we can have the readers line up. Okay, Rabbi Tom's going to come up here to do the blessings of the readers. And then I'll be back for the announcements and the Midrash.
Shabbat Shalom. Okay, our Parsha this week is the Ashkanan, which means I pleaded, and that's from Devarim or Deuteronomy 3:23 to 7:11, and we have 9 readings. And so our first reader is going to be Miss Sarah. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, okay. Our first reader is going to be Miss Dahlia. All right. He who blessed our fathers Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, may he bless Miss Dahlia, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set apart one bless her and her family and send blessings and prosperity on all the works of her hands. Amen. Okay, Miss Dahlia, you're going to read from the beginning of chapter 3, verse 23, down to 4:9. 3:23 to 4:9.
And now I pleaded with Yahweh at that time, saying, O Master Yahweh, you have begun to show your servant your greatness and your strong hand, for who is a mighty one in the heavens or on earth who does according to your works and according to your might? I pray, let me pass over and see the good land beyond the Jordan, this good hill country and Lebanon. But Yahweh was enraged with me for your sake and would not listen to me. And Yahweh said to me, enough of that. Speak no more to me about this matter. Go up to the top of Pisgah and lift up your eyes westward and northward and southward and eastward, and look with your eyes, for you do not pass over this Jordan. But charge Yehoshua and strengthen him and make him brave, for he shall pass over before these people and causes them to inherit the land which you see. And we dwelt in the valley opposite of Beth Peor. And now, O Israel, listen to the laws and the right rulings which I am teaching you to do, so that you live and shall go in and possess the land which Yahweh, Elohim of your fathers, is giving you. Do not add to the word which I commanded you. Do not take away from it, so as to guard the commands of Yahweh, your Elohim, which I am commanding you. Your eyes have seen that Yahweh did what Yahweh did at Baal Peor, for Yahweh your Elohim has destroyed from your midst all the men who followed Baal Peor. But you who are clinging to Yahweh your Elohim are alive today, every one of you. Up to there? Okay. Oh, sorry. See, I have taught you laws and right rulings, and Yahweh my Elohim commanded me to do thus in the land which you go to possess. And you shall guard and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding before the eyes of the peoples who hear all these laws. And they shall say, only a wise and understanding people is this great nation. For what great nation is there which has Elohim so near to it, as Yahweh your Elohim is to us, whenever we call on him? And what great nation is there that has such laws and righteous right rulings like all this Torah which I set before you this day? Only guard yourself and guard your life diligently, lest you forget the words your eyes have seen, and lest they turn aside from your heart all the days of your life. And you shall make them known to your children and your grandchildren.
Thank you, Ms. Dahlia. All right, next up, we'll have Ms. Sarah. All right. He who blessed our fathers Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, may he bless Miss Sarah, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set apart one bless her and her family and send blessings and prosperity on all the works of her hands. And Miss Sarah, you're going to read in chapter 4, verses 10 through 24.
The day when you stood before Yahweh your Elohim in Horeb, Yahweh said to me, assemble the people to me, and I make them hear my words, so that they learn to fear me all the days they live on the earth, and teach them to their children. And you came near and stood at the foot of the mountain, and the mountain burned with fire to the heart of the heavens, darkness, cloud, and thick darkness. And Yahweh spoke to you out of the midst of the fire. You heard a voice of words, but saw no form. You only heard a voice. And he made known to you his covenant, which he commanded you to do, the 10 words. And he wrote them on 2 tablets of stone. And Yahweh commanded me at that time to teach you laws and right rulings for you to do them in the land which you pass over to possess. Therefore, diligently guard yourselves, for you saw no form when Yahweh spoke to you at Horeb, out of the midst of the fire, lest you should do corruptly, and shall make for yourselves a carved image in the form of any figure, the likeness of male or female, the likeness of any beast that is on the earth, or the likeness of any winged bird that flies in the heavens, the likeness of any creature that creeps on the ground, or the likeness of any fish that is in the water under the earth. Unless you lift up your eyes to the heavens, and shall see the sun, and the moon, and the stars, all the hosts of the heavens, and you be drawn away into the bowing down to them, and serving them, which Yahweh your Elohim has allotted to all the peoples under all the heavens. But Yahweh has taken you and brought you out of the iron furnace, out of Mitzrayim, to be his people, an inheritance as it is today. And Yahweh was enraged with me because of your words, and swore that I would not pass over the Yarden, and that I would not enter the good land which Yahweh your Elohim is giving you as an inheritance. For I am to die in this land. I am not passing over the Yarden, but you are passing over, and shall possess that good land. Guard yourselves, lest you forget the covenant of Yahweh your Elohim, which he made with you, and shall make for yourselves a carved image in any form, as Yahweh your Elohim has commanded you. For Yahweh your Elohim is a consuming fire, a jealous El.
Thank you. And next up is Miss Rhonda. He who blessed our fathers Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, may he bless Miss Rhonda, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set apart one bless her and her family, and send blessings and prosperity on all the works of her hands. Miss Rhonda, you're going to read in Deuteronomy 4:25 through 38.
When you bring forth children and grandchildren, and shall grow old in the land, and shall do corruptly, and make a carved image in the form of whatever, and shall do what is evil in the eyes of Yahweh your Elohim to provoke him, I shall call the heavens and the earth to witness against you on that day, that you soon completely perish from the land which you pass over the Jordan to possess. You do not prolong your days in it, but are completely destroyed. And Yahweh shall scatter you among the peoples, and you shall be left few in number among the nations where Yahweh drives you. And there you shall serve mighty ones, the work of men's hands, wood and stone, which neither see, nor hear, nor eat, nor smell. But from there you shall seek Yahweh, your Elohim, and shall find when you search for him with all your heart and with all your being. In your distress, when all the words shall come upon you in the latter days, then you shall return to Yahweh, your Elohim, and shall obey his voice. For Yahweh, your Elohim, is a compassionate El. He does not forsake you, nor destroy you, nor forget the covenant of your fathers, which he swore to them. For ask now of the days that are past, which were before you, since the day that Elohim created man on the earth, and ask from one end of the heavens to the other end of the heavens, whether there has been a word as great as this, or has been heard like it. Has the people heard the voice of Elohim speaking out of the midst of the fire, as you have heard and live? Or as Elohim tried to go to take for himself a nation from the midst of a nation, by trials and by signs and by wonders and by battle and by strong hand and an outstretched arm, and by great force, fearsome deeds, according to all that Yahweh your Elohim did for you in Mitzrayim before your eyes. You have been shown it, to know that Yahweh Elohim himself is Elohim. There is no one besides him. From the heavens he let you hear his voice to instruct you, and on earth he showed you his great fire, and you heard his words out of the midst of the fire. And because he loved your fathers, therefore he chose their seed after them and brought you out of Mitzrayim with his presence, with his great power, to drive out from before you nations greater and stronger than you, to bring you in, to give you their land as an inheritance as it is today.
Thank you, Miss Rhonda. Next up, well, Mr. Aldebar. Okay, Ollie, you're going to read in chapter 4, 39 to the end of the chapter, and I'll say the blessing over you. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, may he bless Oliver, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless him and his family and send blessings and prosperity on all the works of his hands. Amen. That's verse 39 to the end of the chapter.
And you shall know today, and shall recall to your heart, that Yahweh himself is Elohim in the heavens above and on the earth beneath. There is none else. And you shall guard his laws and his commands, which I command to you today, so that it is well with you. So it is well with you and with your children after you, and so that you prolong your days on the soil which Yahweh your Elohim is giving you for all time. Then Moshe separated 3 cities beyond the Yarden, toward the rising of the sun, for a manslayer to flee there, he who unknowingly murdered his neighbor, without having hated him in time past, and might flee to one of these cities and live. Betzer in the wilderness, in the level land of the Reubenites, and Ramoth in Gilad for the Gadites, and Golan in Bashan for the Menashites. And this is the Torah which Moshe set before the children of Israel. These are the witnesses and laws and the right rulings which Moshe spoke to the children of Israel after they came out of Mitzrayim, beyond the Yarden, in the valley opposite Bet Peor, in the land of Sichon, sovereign of the Amorites, who dwelt in Heshbon, whom Moshe and the children of Israel had stricken after they came out of Mitzrayim. And they took possession of his land, and in the land of Og, sovereign of Bashan, 2 sovereigns of the Amorites, who were beyond the Yarden, toward the rising of the sun, from Aroer, which is on the bank of the Wadi Arnon, even to Mount Sion, which is Hermon, and all the desert plain beyond the Yarden, as far as the sea of the Arabah, below the slopes of Pisgah.
Thank you, Ollie. And next up is Miss Shannon. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, may he bless Shannon, who's come up to honor Yahweh and the Torah. May the set-apart one bless her and her family and send blessings and prosperity on all the works of her hands. Shannon, you're going to start in chapter 5 and read the first 15 verses, 1 through 15.
And Moshe called all Israel and said to them, Hear, O Israel, the laws and right rulings which I speak in your hearing today, and you shall learn them and guard to do them. Yahweh our Elohim made a covenant with us in Horeb. Yahweh did not make this covenant with our fathers, but with us, for those who are here today, all of us who are alive. Yahweh spoke with you face to face on the mountain, in the midst of the fire. I stood between Yahweh and you at that time to declare to you the word of Yahweh, for you were afraid because of the fire, and you did not go up to the mountain, saying, I am Yahweh your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim, out of the house of bondage. You have no other mighty ones against my face. You do not make for yourself a carved image, any likeness of which is in the heavens above, or which is in the earth beneath, or which is in the waters under the earth. You do not bow down to them, nor serve them, for I, Yahweh your Elohim, am a jealous El, visiting the crookedness of the fathers upon the children to the third and fourth generations of those who hate me, but showing loving commitment to thousands to those who love me and guard my commands. You do not bring the name of Yahweh your Elohim to naught, for Yahweh does not leave him unpunished who brings his name to naught. Guard the Sabbath day to set it apart, as Yahweh your Elohim commanded you. 6 days you labor and shall do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath of Yahweh your Elohim. You do not do any work, you nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your male servant, nor your female servant, nor your ox, nor your donkey, nor any of your cattle, nor your stranger who is within your gates, so that your male servant and your female servant rest as you do. And you shall remember that you were a slave in the land of Mitzrayim, and that Yahweh your Elohim brought you out from there by a strong hand and by an outstretched arm. Therefore Yahweh your Elohim commanded you to perform the Sabbath day.
Thank you, Shannon. And next up, we'll have Mr. Kelly Kulo. He who blessed our fathers Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, may he bless Kelly, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless him and his family and send blessings and prosperity on all the works of his hands. And Kelly, you're going to read in chapter 5, verses 16 through 33. 16 through 33.
Respect your father and your mother, as Yahweh your Elohim has commanded you, so that your days are prolonged, and so that it is well with you on the soil which Yahweh your Elohim is giving you. You do not murder, you do not commit adultery, you do not steal, you do not bear false witness against your neighbor, you do not covet your neighbor's wife, nor do you desire your neighbor's house, his field, nor his male servant, nor his female servant, his ox, nor his donkey, or whatever belongs to your neighbor. These words Yahweh spoke to all your assembly in the mountain of the midst of the fire, of the cloud, and of the thick darkness with a loud voice. And he added no more. And he wrote them on 2 tablets of stone and gave them to me. And it came to be, when you heard the voice from the midst of the darkness, while the mountain was still burning with fire, that you came near to me, all the heads of your tribes and your elders, and said, See, Yahweh our Elohim has shown us his esteem and his greatness, and we have heard his voice from the midst of the fire. Today we have seen that Yahweh speaks with man, and he lives. And now, why should we die? For this great fire is consuming us. If we hear the voice of Yahweh our Elohim any more, then we shall die. For who is there of all flesh who has heard the voice of the living Elohim speaking from the midst of the fire, as we have, and does live? You go near and hear all that Yahweh our Elohim says, and speak to us all that Yahweh our Elohim says to you, and we shall hear and do it. And Yahweh heard the voice of your words when you spoke to me. And Yahweh said to me, I have heard the voice of the words of this people, which they have spoken to you. They have done well in all that they have spoken. Oh, that they had such a heart in them, to fear me and to guard all my commands always, so that it might be well with them and go with their children forever. Go, say to them, return to your tents, but you stand here by me, and let me speak to you all the commands and the laws and the right rulings which you are to teach them, and they shall do them in the land which I am giving them to possess. And you shall guard to do as Yahweh your Elohim has commanded you. Do not turn aside to the right or to the left. Walk in all the ways which Yahweh your Elohim has commanded you, so that you live and it be well with you, and you shall prolong your days in the land which you possess.
Thank you, Kelly. Next up, we'll have Mr. Richard Mohay. And I think we're going to need one more reader. Okay. He who blessed our fathers Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, may he bless Richard, who has come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set apart one bless him and his family and send blessing and prosperity on all the works of his hands. Now, Richard, we're going to have you read in Deuteronomy chapter 6, the first 12 verses.
And this is the command, the laws and right rulings which Yahweh your Elohim has commanded to teach you to do in the land which you're passing over to possess, so that you fear Yahweh your Elohim, to guard all his laws, his commands, which I command you, you and your son and your grandson, all the days of your life, that your days be prolonged. And you shall hear, O Israel, and shall guard to do, that it might be well with you, and that you increase greatly, as Yahweh Elohim of your fathers has spoken to you, in a land flowing with milk and honey. Hear, O Israel, Yahweh, our Elohim, Yahweh is one. And you shall love Yahweh your Elohim with all your heart, and with all your being, and with all your might. And these words which I am commanding you today shall be in your heart, and you shall impress them upon your children, and shall speak of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up, and shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. And it shall be, when Yahweh your Elohim brings you into the land of which he swore to your fathers, to Abraham, to Yitzhak, and to Yaakov, to give you great and good cities which you did not build, and houses filled with all kinds of goods which you did not fill, and wells dug which you did not dig, vineyards, olive trees which you did not plant, and you shall eat and be satisfied. Be on guard, lest you forget Yahweh, who brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim from the house of bondage.
Thank you, Richard. Next up is Miss Jessica. He who blessed our fathers Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, may he bless Miss Jessica, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set apart one bless her and her family, and send blessing and prosperity on all the works of her hands. Jessica, you're going to read in chapter 6, verses 13 to the end of the chapter.
Fear Yahweh your Elohim and serve him and swear by his name. Do not go after other mighty ones, the mighty ones of the peoples who are all around you. For Yahweh your Elohim is a jealous El in your midst. Let the displeasure of Yahweh your Elohim burn against you, then he shall destroy you from the face of the earth. Do not try Yahweh your Elohim as you tried him in Massah. Diligently guard the commands of Yahweh your Elohim and his witnesses and his laws which he has commanded you. And you shall do what is right and good in the eyes of Yahweh, that it might be well with you. And you shall go in and possess the good land of which Yahweh swore to your fathers, to drive out all your enemies from before you, as Yahweh has spoken. When your son asks you in time to come, saying, what is the meaning of the witnesses and the laws and the right rulings which Yahweh our Elohim has commanded you? Then you shall say to your son, we were slaves of Pharaoh in Mitzrayim, and Yahweh brought us out of Mitzrayim with a strong hand. And Yahweh sent signs and wonders, great and grievous, upon Mitzrayim, upon Pharaoh, and upon all his household before our eyes. And he brought us out from there to bring us in, to give us the land of which he swore to our fathers. And Yahweh commanded us to do all these laws, to fear Yahweh our Elohim for our good always, and to keep us alive as it is today. And it is righteousness for us when we guard to do all this command before Yahweh our Elohim as he has commanded us.
Thank you, Miss Jessica. Okay, next, last but not least, is Miss Janet. He who blessed our fathers Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, may he bless Miss Janet, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless her and her family and send blessings and prosperity in all the works of her hands. And Miss Janet, you're going to go to chapter 7 and read verses 1 through 11.
When Yahweh your Elohim brings you into the land which you go to possess, he shall also clear away many nations before you, the Hittites, and the Girgashites, and the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, 7 nations, greater and mightier than you. And when Yahweh your Elohim gives them over to you, you shall strike them and put them under the ban completely. Make no covenant with them, and show them no favor. And do not intermarry with them. You do not give your daughter to his son, and you do not take his daughter for your son. For he turns your sons away from following me, to serve other mighty ones. Then the displeasure of Yahweh shall burn against you, and promptly destroy you. But this is what you do to them. Break down their slaughter places, and smash their pillars, and cut down their asherim, and burn their carved images with fire. For you are a set-apart people to Yahweh your Elohim. Yahweh your Elohim has chosen you to be a people for himself, a treasured possession above all the peoples on the face of the earth. Yahweh did not set his love on you, nor choose you because you were more numerous than any other people, for you were the least of all peoples. But because of Yahweh loving you, and because of him guarding the oath which he swore to your fathers, Yahweh has brought you out with a strong hand and ransomed you from the house of bondage, from the hand of Pharaoh, sovereign of Mitzrayim. And you shall know that Yahweh your Elohim, he is Elohim, the trustworthy El, guarding covenant and loving commitment for 1,000 generations with those who love him and those who guard his commands, but repaying those who hate him to their face to destroy them. He does not delay to do so with him who hates him. He repays him to his face. And you shall guard the commands and the laws and the right rulings, which I command you today to do them.
Thank you, Miss Janet. Amen. Okay, now we'll have the blessing after the Torah reading. Baruch atah Yahweh Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu et Torah emet, b'kei olam natab betokenu, Baruch atah Yahweh noten haTorah. Amen. And now we'll have Rabbi Steve.
Amen. All right. And for those of you who wanted the English of that, that's okay. Blessed are you, Yahweh your Elohim, King of the universe, who has given us a Torah of truth and has planted eternal life in our midst. Blessed are you, Yahweh, giver of the Torah. Amen. Thank you, Rabbi Tom. Great job. All the readers, great job. Awesome. Okay. I'll let you go ahead and motor out of here. Put these down. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the announcements, and then we'll get into the discussion. All right, so first of all, I want to welcome our guests. Okay? Of course, I'm mostly referring to all of you guys who are finding us on the live stream on YouTube here, so because we don't have too many guests that usually come in on a Friday night here, sometimes on a Saturday, but as far as on the live stream, I know we always have guests, so we want to welcome you. We also want to ask that if you are a guest that you behave like a guest. I mean, Abraham was known for his hospitality, and everyone of renown in Scripture was known for their respect for authority and respect for what's going on. And so, if this is not your cup of tea, it's okay. You don't have to be nasty about it or type in all kinds of things. Just go somewhere else, okay? And some of you are thinking, oh, well, you just don't want anybody to disagree with you. I don't mind you disagreeing. The problem is most of you don't have the ability to do that without being disagreeable, okay? That's where it gets to be a problem. Now, let me explain also about disagreements. Disagreements are not just something that should be handled in any forum. Okay, there's a right place for a disagreement. This is not the right place. This is a Friday night service and Torah study. If you have a disagreement, you're welcome to go on our websites. There are phone numbers right there. They'll type it into you on the chat. You can give us a phone call or email us at admin@mtoi.org, and, you can discuss with us what you think we're doing that you don't agree with or whatever. Okay, but this is not the place, right? This is our doing what we're doing. And hopefully you're blessed by it and you enjoy it, but if that's not the case, that's okay, all right? So I'm not saying that nobody can disagree with us. There's a right place for it, though, okay? There's a right place for it. All right, because also if you're typing in, I've got no way to address it. I don't have the live stream in front of me. I don't see your chat. And you're asking our Shamish team to address it. And really, I should be addressing it, right? Okay. All right, so for those of you that are on the live stream, especially that may be new, our guests, let me tell you what we offer here. All of this is free. We don't charge for anything. We are a little different, okay? Mostly from the point of view of the teachings, right? Our teachings are not like everybody else's. And some of you will be like, well, what does that mean? Well, go listen to the teachings. Come tomorrow and listen to the teaching. You definitely will hear some different things tomorrow. All right, I've got a new teaching plan that I think will definitely have some things you never thought of before in it. Now, so we do a live stream of our services tomorrow, all right? So every Shabbat, Saturday at 1:15 in the afternoon. The stream starts at 1. We go live at 1:15, so you can start at least talking to each other, chatting with each other in the stream for the first 15 minutes. There's music and clips from some of the teachings and slides like this, streaming while the first 15 minutes are going on. So sort of our announcement slides, so you kind of know what's coming up. So we do that. It runs about 4 hours. It goes till 5:30, so a little over 4 hours. So I know that sounds like a long time. Well, you got to do something on Shabbat. It's a lot of time to cover, so we try to cover a good chunk of it. Okay? We do praise, and we sing and dance, and then we have, time for praise and prayer where we deal with the prayer needs of the body, and we have liturgy, and then we have a teaching, and then we also have an open discussion about the teaching. And that's even for you guys on live stream. You can type in. Okay? And of course, we're doing what we're doing now. We're on Friday night. So you have our Friday night Torah studies. So if you're here locally, you can come and have an Erev Shabbat meal with us at 6 o'clock, and then we live stream at 7:30. Okay, then a live stream of 7:30 of the weekly Torah portion. Now, the Saturday service and the Torah portion on Friday nights are mostly the schedule, like I said, except occasionally during a feast, they may be a slightly different time. We may not be doing the Friday night study during a feast, and Sabbath, we may start at a little bit different time because it's during the feast event, okay? But we do keep all the biblical holy days, Leviticus 23 holy days, and Sabbaths here, and we stream everything that we can stream, okay? All right, so next up, we also have the Torah portion schedule, which is what we read through every Friday night, and that's available on our website, okay, under the Resources tab. I will be putting out a new one for the next cycle that starts after Sukkot here pretty soon. Okay, so we'll have that one up there. And so it has the Torah portion, which is from Deuteronomy. Okay, so the Torah portion cycle is Genesis to Deuteronomy in a one-year cycle. All right, one-year cycle. And also on the schedule, we have what's called the Haftarah portion, which is the prophets and writings that are connected to or thematically connected to whatever was in the Torah portion. And then we also have a Brit Chadashah, or New Testament portion, which is not thematically connected. What we chose to do was in a year cycle to read through one gospel and all the rest of the scripture of the New Testament, right? So you read one gospel and then Acts to Revelation. So each year we change the gospel, and then you read Acts to Revelation, okay? So this year we're reading Mark, all right? We just finished, are we in Mark this year, right? Anybody, none of you guys are even looking at the schedule. All right, anyway. All right, so you have that available free to download on our website. Then we also have the Parsha Pearls program, which is for the children doing the same cycle, right? We're going through the same Torah portion cycle. All right, so the Parsha Pros program is put together by our fantastic Rebbitzin Julie, who's also my wife. Okay? And I know she's watching, or will be when she wakes up. She's in a different time zone at the moment, so hi, honey. Okay. So this program has its own website, ymtoi.org, okay? And so it's designed for the children to engage with the Torah portion at their level, okay? Now, if you want this really well explained, go listen to like last Sabbath services during the announcements that my wife was doing, and she explains her program a whole lot better than anybody. But anyway, so we have two groups of children, age ranges that we try to serve. The Gem Seekers are from 5 to 8, and the Pearl Seekers are age 9 to about 19. We say 99 plus because I think everybody can get something out of the program. So these are PDFs that you can download. It's all free. Everything I said is going to be free, right? So we have I think the best Torah observant youth program in the world, and it's free, okay? So in that program, you get about 35 pages for each of the age groups, 35 each, right? You have child-friendly stories and lessons from that week's Torah portion. Actually, I'd probably say everything I'm about to say that's in each Torah portion, weekly thing, is specific to that Torah portion. In other words, we don't just cover a few items in the Torah portion and fill it with a bunch of other stuff. Everything is going to be Torah portion specific. Child-friendly stories and lessons from the Torah portion, lesson questions, Hebrew word study, so you got about, I think it's either 8 words or so that are from that week's Torah portion that we give you so you can cut them out like flashcards and learn some Hebrew. Memory verses, word searches, crossword puzzles, mazes, crafts, notebook pages, coloring pages, even a song and a snack, all Torah portion specific. The children would have a ton to do because some of you are like, well, what do I do with the kids on Shabbat? Well, there you go. This will keep them plenty busy. We publish them on Sunday in advance of the week. So what we do on Friday, tonight was published last Sunday. So you have the whole week to get the supplies for your children to do the crafts and the notebook pages and the different things so that by Sabbath you have everything ready to go. If you want to use this as part of your homeschooling program, it's fantastic for that as well. All right, then we have a teenager program, all right, called Torah Teens, which is led by our own Rabbi Tom, who was just up here before, right? And Rabbi Tom does a fantastic job with our teenagers. This is on Thursdays. Now, we do understand that we're an international ministry, which means that there are people at other time zones in the world. And so to serve them the best we can, Rabbi Tom has decided to do it 3 different sessions in the same Thursday. So he does one at 9 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and 9 o'clock at night. Okay, that covers a good chunk of when children are available in the world. Even the children that are here in Zone 1 or here in the U.S., who happen to be in school and can't really do the 9 or the 1, but they can do the 9 o'clock at night, especially West Coast, where that's like 6 o'clock at night, and they get to be in that later session, okay? But this is for teenagers, 13 to 19. If you're not a teenager, please don't come into the class. This is on Zoom, so which is a video chat service, okay? So everybody should be familiar with Zoom, especially after COVID. Zoom became very popular as a way to contact each other. So you need a link for this. You get the link by emailing us at torahtime@mtoi.org, torahtime@mtoi.org, okay? It's for teenagers, though, which means that if you're not a teenager, if you're younger than 13, please don't have that child in the room with your teenager to distract your teenager from being in the class. And if they're older, the same thing. And if you as a parent are really wondering, what are they learning in there? Well, you're welcome to come and sit in the room, but try to sit off camera, because if you're on camera, the dynamic of the teenagers changes immediately, and I want them, and you should want them, to learn how to interact with each other freely, as well as with a leader like Rabbi Tom, so they get used to interacting with leadership, okay? So you can sit off to the side, off camera, listen for a little bit. Once you're comfortable, you could always leave the room, because while you're in the room, everybody else won't know you're there, but your child will, and your child won't feel comfortable to just say whatever, okay? And don't worry about Rabbi Tom. He handles the children well, and the teenagers really behave well for him, okay? We've never had an incident in a teenager class, all right? Just never. All right. We also have audio scripture readings provided by our own Shira Wendling. Okay, so she has read the scriptures, everything from Genesis to Revelation, and it's recorded on our website, MTOI.org, if you like to hear the word read. Also, the first 5 books are broken up by Torah portion. So you could listen to Vet Hanan, which we had tonight. You could have listened to that, okay? All right. They're free to download and listen to at your convenience off the website. They're on MTOI.org under the Media tab. Okay, then we have on YouTube, we put things out Monday through Friday, we publish on YouTube. On Monday, we put what's called a first look, which is kind of like going to the movies and seeing the preview for the movie. This is a preview of the full teaching that's going to come out later in the week. So these are powerful sound bites from that week's full teaching. Then on Tuesdays, we have what's called the shorts, YouTube shorts, as well as Rabbi Trails, which are the same thing as the shorts, but we publish them on our app. Okay, we have an app. I'll talk about that in a little bit. And so there are 10 short videos that are, up to a minute long. Some of them are 30 seconds or less than a minute, but they're very short. We put 10 different ones on YouTube and 10 different ones also. So you get 20 really a week, okay? 10 different ones on the Rabbi Trails or on our app. Okay, I don't know which ones Brianna publishes on TikTok. I think both, so then you also get them on the TikTok account, which is doing pretty good as well. All right, so then you have the current teaching publishing on Wednesday. So the one that was from this week was the Good and Trustworthy Servant Part 24. Okay, so that's the Good and Trustworthy Servant. So that's the full teaching. Okay, then on Thursdays, you get what's called the afterburn from that teaching. So Monday is related to this teaching. Tuesday is not. Tuesday is just quick little short videos from any teaching, okay? Any older teaching. But Wednesday is connected to the same teaching, and Thursday is the same teaching. So Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday are all the same teaching, but they're different aspects. One's sound bites, the other's the full teaching, and this is the afterburn. So after I teach, we allow for questions and do a little Q&A session, because I want to make sure that whatever I just said was understood and received, which means that you may have some comments or questions about what you just heard. And we record that, and that's another hour long, so it's like getting a double teaching, and we publish that on Thursdays. Then on Fridays, we publish what's called an In Focus. These are short videos from older teachings, run about 10 to 15 minutes long, 8 to 10, 15 minutes long, so they're not very long videos, but basically in the middle of a teaching, I may have said something that covered a topic fairly, fairly fully, if that's the right way to say it, somewhat completely, in just a short little thing that can be pulled out of the teaching and used separately, yet it was part of a bigger teaching. And we will also let you know in the In Focus which teaching it came out of so that you can go back and watch the whole thing if you want, right? So it will cover, like a lot of people have a meltdown over the fact that I use the title Rabbi, and I have read Matthew 23, just so you know. But you may want to listen to the In Focus that I did that covers that, okay? So just so you know, all right? So I think it's called Do Not Be Called Rabbi or some other thing like that. So just you can look up in our In Focuses and watch that, because that was in the middle of another teaching, and I covered it for 15 or so, 20 minutes, and so we pulled it out as a separate thing. All right, you can find us on social media, on Facebook. Now, basically on Facebook, you need to know my account was hacked, so I don't have a Facebook anymore. Okay? Couldn't get it recovered, still working on it, who knows. Don't care, don't like Facebook anyway. Which means that we lost control over our group, so we don't have a group. So if you're in the MTOI group, we still have thousands of you, which means that most of those people never watch the teachings or the services. Please exit the group, because the group does not really function or exist anymore, all right? It's still there on Facebook, though. We do have a page, though, MTOI page that you can like, okay? That you can follow, okay? So you can go and find that, and Brianna does still post there, okay? And so our social media director does post there. On TikTok, we are MTOI_worldwide, also on Instagram, okay? All right, so, and by the way, the TikTok account actually is doing the best of all of them at this point in terms of the amount of people and the followers and all that kind of thing on a weekly basis is really growing. So I was surprised there. All right, let's see. Next, all right, we have our app, and we're really excited about the app. Okay. Now, you can download the app. We've got at the moment about 5,800 plus, almost 5,900 downloads of that. It's fantastic. When I mention numbers, for those of you that don't know us, I'm not bragging. I don't care. It lets you know, if you're interested, how effective we're being. Because these things help people in us being effective with them. So if we had an app that only 12 people downloaded, that would tell you we're not being very effective. So I'm just letting you know that we've got almost 6,000 downloads. That's pretty effective, considering, right? Now, everything that we have is easily accessible on the app. You can listen to music that Brianna has written, and that's on there, some of her albums that are the praise music. You can listen to any of the things that we put on YouTube. They're all there, a link that you can get them there. There's so much great stuff on the app. But also, I didn't do this tonight, so don't go looking for it. I forgot. I got busy with my wife not being in town and everything else. But most Fridays, unless you got one because I pre-said it. Did anybody get one? No. No, I normally try to schedule them so that they send at a certain time. But anyway, on the app, if you have your general notifications on, you'll get, usually on a Friday night, a little Shabbat Shalom from me. I may go do one later tonight so people will get one tonight into tomorrow so that when I do the announcements tomorrow, I can say I did one, okay? But if you're not getting them, if you've had the app for a while, you should be getting these every Friday night, okay? With a very rare exception if something comes up and I don't get it done. So what you need to do is go to your app settings. In other words, in the app, tap on your icon, okay? Go into the account, go to settings, go to notifications, and then notifications, you'll see one that's called general. Make sure it's green. Make sure it's on, all right? Turn your general one on. Because some people say, I've had the app a long time. I never see anything because maybe you haven't had your notifications on, all right? Just so you get that. All right, and then you'll get a little. Now, these are important things because, Yah forbid, but at some point it's going to happen, right? Something terrible might happen in the world, and I might need to let you know what to do or what's happening, right? And so if that were to happen, this is the best way I can reach everybody if you all have it. So especially all of you here locally, you should have the app, because what if something happened and I had to shut down services or cancel it because something major just happened? Then you might need to know what's going on. This is the best way I can blast out a message to everybody, okay? All right. So then next what's coming up is Rosh Chodesh. We're going to get into our normal scheduled events as they come up. The next Rosh Chodesh is coming up on Wednesday, September 4th. All right, that's at 7:00 p.m. No meal, but so eat at home. Come here at 7. You can bring dessert if you want, and we'd like to hang out after the Rosh Chodesh service. If you've never been to one of our Rosh Chodesh services, it's basically the Messianic, Torah-observant, personal development class, okay? Because it's looking from a month by month, new moon to new moon, at you becoming him, okay? So I usually give some real good tools and things that have to do with that. But we do have a quick service, runs only about 10 minutes. That's sort of a traditional liturgical little service. And then we go into just some sort of a help you get through to the next month better than you were last month type of thing. All right. Leadership Council meeting is on the 8th, okay, September 8th. You're not invited, but I want you to pray for it. Okay, so this is, some people see here us announce these things like, how do I get to go? It's a closed meeting. We have leaders, about almost 30 of them around the world that we meet together, all part of MTOI in various countries, whether they're in New Zealand and Australia and the Philippines, or whether they're in South Africa or Canada or across the U.S., wherever they are, they're part of our leadership. We meet once a month. I want you guys to know so you can pray for it. And ask God to inspire us to bless you guys and provide you with whatever it is He wants us to provide, right? Okay? It's also a chance for the leadership to make sure we're all on the same page. It's another opportunity also for some of the newer leaders to do a little iron sharpening iron type of thing. And these are all volunteers for the most part. Everybody just about except maybe one that we do have a little bit on staff. Otherwise, everybody's been doing this volunteer, and almost all of them have been doing this for 5 years plus with us. I mean, they've been very consistently with us for a long time. Some for over almost 10 years, okay? So it's fantastic. So please pray for that meeting. Okay, it's once a month. Next one's going to be on September the 8th. All right. Then we have our zone meetings, okay? So, yeah, get excited. Okay, so we recognized fairly early on that this was going to be something that once we did it, if we put it out in public, would inspire people around the world to be a part of it. And so we recognized that there's an international aspect to what we do. And so I decided, I give him the credit for hopefully, that I'm giving him credit because he inspired it, that, hey, we need to do something on Shabbat for people wherever they live that's live and interactive. Okay, now maybe at some point we'll do 3 Shabbat services every Friday into Saturday. Okay? But right now, at least once a month, I can do something on Shabbat where you live. So if you're in zone 3, I broke the world into 3 zones, which is a range of time zones. Okay? So in zone 3, these are the people that, for example, live in Australia, New Zealand, Japan, the Philippines, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, China, Fiji. There were some new ones that we had last time. I don't remember where they were now. Anyway, these are all countries that people do come to these meetings, okay? So it's very exciting. We had somebody in Vietnam last time, but they don't normally live there. Okay, that was Monica, who's usually in Mexico, but she was visiting her son. But we do have people from all these different places, all right? Now, because of the time difference, These are people that are a good 12 to 16 or 17 hours ahead of where we are here today. So for them, okay, this is somewhere between like 9 o'clock in the morning right now and 1 or 2 in the afternoon, okay? So they're able to, it's Shabbat right in what they're doing, okay? So we do this on Friday nights at 10 o'clock, so that means it's 10 in the morning to like 3 or 4 in the afternoon where they are on a Friday. So the next one is on September the 13th, Zone 3, and that's where they're going to meet with me and be able to interact and ask questions. Any scriptural, halachic, anything biblical stuff, right? So it has two benefits. Obviously, to get some questions answered, but really for them to interact with their leader, their teacher. I'm their teacher. This way they get to ask the questions, right? I mean, after all, I'm obviously not in those countries on a regular basis, so they don't get to do that so often. Like maybe you guys here obviously can do it every week. All right, so Zone 3. So to do this, it's on Zoom. All right, so you need to get the link. It's email us at zoom@mtoi.org, zoom@mtoi.org. By the way, with this link and the Torah Teens link, don't wait until like 5 minutes before. Sometimes the auto system, it's an autoresponder. It doesn't respond very quickly. Don't get mad at us. We have nothing to do with it. It's the ether that's out there, the internet, right? So you can get that link anytime. One link works forever. I've not changed the link ever, so just once you get it, it works, okay? I mean, if we have some people behaving badly and I have to change the link, I will, but that has never happened. All right, now, that's not a challenge to all you geniuses out there that didn't come and mess with us. All right, but, okay, so Friday night, the 13th of September, Zone 3 at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. All of these things are going to be based on what time it is here, all right? Then we have Zone 2. All right, Zone 2 is on the next day after Zone 3. So it's the second, usually this is going to be almost always the second weekend of the month. We're going to make an exception in October because of the holy days. We're going to do it the first weekend of the month. All right, so this is going to be on Saturday the 14th. So Zone 2 is like the United Kingdom, Europe, Africa, into parts of further Eastern Europe towards India and that kind of thing. That's kind of Eastern India kind of almost gets into the more Zone 3. You know, it's in that 10-hour, 11-hour range. So these places are more like 4 to 7 hours, 6 to 8 or 10 hours ahead of us, because Europe, Africa is all 6 hours, okay? 6 to 10 or 11 hours ahead of us. So this is, again, the same Zoom link works for Zone 2 as Zone 3. Okay, this is at 10 a.m., because that means 6 hours ahead means that they're going to be, at 4 in the afternoon, right? So that should cover it, as far as understanding that. Then we have our Zone 1 meeting. The Zone 1 is here, locally, right? And locally, I mean it's the U.S., Canada, Mexico, South and Central America, all the islands, anything in that range of time zones, all right? Okay, so if I mention any of the zones, I didn't name your country, you're welcome if you live within that range of time zones. Now, by the way, actually, you're all welcome to every meeting. Doesn't matter where you live, you can come to all three of those. The difference being, it's the people that live in that zone that get to ask the questions. Okay? So if you live here and you want to go to all three, you're welcome to do that, but you only get to ask questions when you're in Zone 1. Okay? If you're like Jet, who shows up to everything, he only gets to ask questions in Zone 3. He lives in the Philippines. Okay? But he's on right now. I know him. He just never misses anything. Okay? Now, Zone 1 being so big, though, because it is our local one, and we've got almost 200 people in the congregation here, plus all the people live, we rotate every other month who gets to ask the questions, either you guys here or the people out in the stream. The reason being that when we used to do it just for all of you, the people on the stream got shortchanged when all of you here had so many questions. So last month, this one we just had was for you guys here. The next one is for the live streamers, okay? So if you're in U.S., Canada, Mexico, South, et cetera, you'll be able to contact and do this and get our... Now, this is on Shabbat, during our normal service, during the time when the teaching would be taking place. It's normally around 3:30 in the afternoon by the time we get to the teaching, give or take, right? Now, the thing that we're going to do, though, for you guys is we're doing a hybrid of using the Zoom with the live stream on YouTube. We have technology now where we can actually stream onto YouTube and also interface with you on Zoom. Okay, so you still need the Zoom link for this. And we're going to let 2 or 3 people at a time in the room so that they can line up and get their questions answered. Then they leave the room and the next 2 or 3 people come in, okay? Now, bear in mind that we do want you, when you come in, to be people that are willing to be heard and immortalized on YouTube And if your camera's on, we'll actually all see you on the camera as well. You get to see me, we'll get to see you. It's going to be broadcast. Okay, now, except for Zone 1, okay, the other ones are not recorded. Zone 2 and Zone 3 are not recorded. If you missed the meeting, you missed whatever amazing, insightful thing came out of it, okay? And there's always some really good questions with some really good insights, but we don't record it. And some of you are like, well, that's not fair. Why don't you record it? Because then you'd never come. Okay, you'd always go look at the recording, and I'd be talking to 3 people. I want you to come to the meetings. The Zone 1, though, because it is on Saturday during our service, that one is recorded, obviously, and broadcast onto YouTube, so you'll get to see it if you miss it later, right? Okay, but just that you kind of have that kind of worked out. Okay, if you've got questions, please bring them to the Zone meetings first and foremost, okay? But if that's not comfortable for you to get on a mic and get in front of people, you can always email us at questions@mtoi.org, or you can go ahead and go to our mtoi.org Contact Us page and scroll down on the page. There's a form to ask a question, okay? Your questions generally will go to Rabbi Tom first. He'll screen through them. He can answer a lot of them. If you want me specifically, you need to say so in the email message, okay? And then they will try to get that to me. All right. Now, I should tell you in advance, if it's more than 1 page, I'm probably not going to read it, okay? Because some of you will mail me letters that are 12 pages or email me things that I'm not going to read it. I don't have time for that. And also, if it's that long, it's one of 2 things that's happening, right? Either you're telling me your life story. I don't have time to learn everybody's life story, okay? It's not that I don't care. How could I have the time to do that? And the second thing is, if it's not your life story, it's you trying to make some argument for some halakhic position and you're trying to teach me, and I'm really not interested, okay? So I'll have Elder read it or Rabbi Tom read it, and they'll give me the synopsis of it, and I'll respond to it. I don't have the time to listen to and read all of that, okay? I barely have time to do all the things I also already do, okay? I'm just trying to be honest. Look, I don't know what ministries you've ever been a part of, but for me, you're always going to get honesty. I'm going to tell you right up front, I'm not reading your email, okay? Okay, if you email and you talk to Elder to get on my calendar, and then you sent an email with all this information, and then when I talk to you, you say, did you read my email? The answer is always going to be no. You're going to still need to start from scratch and tell me whatever you wanted to come in for. I don't have that kind of time. I have, at this point, almost 20,000 unread emails in my email box, okay? That's after reading as many as I can and deleting as many as I can. I can't keep up. It's 500 to 1,000 a day, okay? So, odds are even if you did email, I never saw it. I can't go through that many of them. I miss them all the time, okay? All right. Some of you are like, well, what's good to email? Because if people email me, the ones who I actually am supposed to get them from, they know to contact me and tell me they emailed me. Like if I'm waiting for them to send me something by email, they text me or call me and say, hey, I just sent you an email, so then I can find it, okay? Because some of you might think that's very rude. I spend more of my time productively actually talking to you guys, okay? Taking your phone calls, Zoom meetings, whatever it is that I do all day Tuesdays and Thursdays with you guys, all right? Okay, and then I have Monday and Wednesdays and Fridays to do my stuff that I need to do that's also for you guys, okay? All right, enough of that. Then we have Rosh Hashanah coming. Okay, Rosh Hashanah, okay, that's on Thursday, October the 3rd. Thursday, October the 3rd, okay? Now, some of you just had a meltdown who were new saying, why do you call it Rosh Hashanah? Because that's the right way to call it, okay? It's also called Yom Teruah. It's also called Zikron Teruah. So all of you that want to say, well, it's called Yom Teruah. Well, not in Leviticus 23, it's not. It's called Zikron Teruah, which is the memorial of the blast. Okay, so go listen to my teaching on the appointed times, intro to the appointed times. But Rosh Hashanah means head of the year. If you look at Leviticus 25, you count years starting with Tishrei 1. Now, it says that Aviv 1 is the beginning. No, it says the beginning of your months, not your years. But don't you count years from the months? 2 different calendars. Don't complain to me. I didn't make it up. He did. Your Bible gives you 2 calendars. There's actually more than that in there, but it gives you 2 calendars. Okay? All right. Then we have Yom Kippur. Actually, no, stay with Rosh Hashanah. I didn't mention. So we're going to do our normal service time, okay? It's going to be a special service where we're going to do, as we've done in the past, it's a slide-driven sort of thing where we do some liturgical things, sort of traditional things from a sort of Jewish perspective in the context of Messiah. And so that will be at 1:15 like normal on Saturday, but it'll be on Thursday, October the 3rd. Okay, then we have Yom Kippur, which, by the way, in Leviticus 23 is Yom HaKippurim, okay, the Day of Atonements, plural. All right, that's on Saturday, October the 12th. Time to be announced because I'm not really sure what I want to do yet since it's on a Shabbat. So normally we would do it just about an hour and change before sundown so that we could then break the fast together right after we finish the service. But it's also Shabbat, okay? So I haven't figured out how much time we're going to spend and what we're going to do to have a Shabbat service and a Yom Kippur service together, okay? So I'm working on that, and we will announce that at some point soon. After all, we still have a little while till we get there, about 2 months almost, right? Now, then we have Sukkot coming. Okay, 303 registered. All right, I'm telling you, we're going to push towards 500 this time. So if you're coming, we need to know that you're coming. I'm not trying to encourage you to come like twist your arm. I'm just saying if you already know you're coming, please register. Because it helps us to plan for how many volunteers we need and the supplies for the children's classes and the other programs and the food and everything that we do for the meal plan. So go ahead and get that registration in, please, all right? All right, so that's going to be hosted right here in Cleveland. It says under the MTOI tent of meeting. That's a little tongue-in-cheek. We don't claim that we have like the tent of meeting, but we actually have a literal tent that we're going to be using, okay? That seats over 500, so we'll have everybody fit in there. That's here in Cleveland, Tennessee. On our website, you can register, okay? There's a fillable PDF that you can pull up. It doesn't, when you fill it out, automatically send to us, though. You fill it out, then you have to save it to your computer, and then there's also a spot where when you went to download it and fill it out that says, add, I don't know what it says, upload your file or some other thing. So you can add your file back, and that will email to us, okay? Then it'll ask for your name and email address, and then upload your file, all right? So you can send it to us that way, or you can just print it out and snail mail it to us and mail it in, okay? There's also a way to pay for your Sukkot right there on that page. You could also do it on the app and on Subsplash, anywhere that we have our donations and stuff on the app, okay? You can do that, or on our website. There were some other things that you need to know. When you fill out the form, okay, on the first page you actually start filling out, which I think is page 3 of the registration form. I need you, if you are getting a meal plan, any member of your family is getting a meal plan other than the standard plan, to write their name down under special dietary needs and pick either gluten-free or vegetarian. Okay, we don't need to know all your needs. Don't tell us that you can't eat tomatoes, you can't eat this. We can't meet all those needs. We just want to know if you're eating one of those 2 alternative plans, okay? Because we're going to make meal tickets for each person, and that we have that person in your family. So if you got 5 people in your family and one's getting the vegetarian, I don't want to guess which one. Write them down in that section, okay? Okay, even though you purchased 4 standard meals and 1 vegetarian, we need to know who gets the vegetarian. All right. So that's part of that. Also, if you sent a payment in and haven't gotten a confirmation from Arlene yet, please contact the office and we will, locate why we missed, tracking that in some way. Because sometimes Subsplash, if you put it in with some other donation or if you put it on a check that had your Sukkot and something else, it gets a little confused. It's not that we lost your money, we just maybe didn't track it properly, okay? So you want to give us a little call. Please, if you are going to send checks, I wish all of you would be paying attention to this, make separate checks for separate things, okay? Make separate checks. Do you have that slide? Put that slide up. We'll just put that slide up, make it easier, okay? Look, if you're here locally, you make your check out to Beth Shalom. If you're not local, you make everything out to MTOI. Very simple with that. However, there are certain things that are MTOI. Feast events are MTOI, not Beth Shalom. I don't care where you live, if you're here or not. Feasts are MTOI. Sukkot is MTOI, all right? Marketplace is MTOI, okay? So the only thing that goes Beth Shalom is your first tithe, offerings, and third tithe, okay? Those are Beth Shalom specific. However, make a separate check for your third tithe, from your other things. Okay, so tithes, offerings, Rosh Chodesh, excess second tithe, they can all go on the same check. And you don't have to tell me what's what. Just make the check out to Beshalom or MTOI and it will go in the right place. It's things like marketplace purchases needs a separate check and that needs to be made out to MTOI because you don't get credit for that as a donation. It's a purchase, right? So the accounting people have to keep track of that. Feast payments, those are separate also because you don't get any donation credit for that. It's a purchase, okay? So make that out to MTOI. Third tithe, right, either Beshalom or MTOI, make it a separate check. Pledge payments for our building campaign, okay? The pledge payments also get a separate check. Those are also MTOI. Okay, hopefully that's now clear as mud. All right, the new facilities building project is going great. Do you have that picture of me and Elder and the shovels? And you put that up? Yay, look at us. And I can promise you we moved exactly no dirt. Okay, we didn't move any dirt. But they're doing a great job there. We did take a picture. You can see a picture behind us of what the building's going to look like when it gets built, okay? So that was really nice. So we moved a lot of dirt, and we're getting close to pouring some concrete because they got to get the parking lot put down so they can actually get the trucks around to do actually building of the building, since right now the entire property is just dirt, right, that they're working on. The whole area of the property is just dirt, but it's going great. So if you, of those of you that have been sending in your pledges, we appreciate that. If you want to understand the pledge campaign, go to mtoi.org. Under the support tab, there's a thing that says building campaign, all right, and then it has all the information there, okay, building project. Under the support tab, there's only two things, donations and this, okay? And there's a video that shows you what the project's going to look like and everything else. Now, we are not begging for or asking or soliciting for money. I've always promised never to do that. People have asked how they could help if they want to participate. This is how you can do that, okay? We have enough to build the first building. That's not to say don't send. We actually have a lot more to build that I've told you about, right? You know, so certainly we can continue to use that. We are going to put up some sort of a donor wall if you want to be seen on the donor wall. And when we do get to that point, I will be reminding everyone, if you don't want your name being up on the wall and you want to do this anonymously, you can always tell us that when you send your pledge payments in, that you want to do it anonymously, okay? All right, so that's all explained on the website. All right, I think that covers it. I know that was a long-winded version of the announcements compared to when my daughter or my wife does it, but that's because it's me and I have more details to give you. What can I tell you? This way you get the full one every now and then, although they do a fantastic job, all right? All right, so now let's get into the Torah portion readings, okay? The discussion part of this, the Et Hanan. So we're in chapter 3 of Deuteronomy, and we took it all the way into chapter 7. All right. And I'm looking at the clock, and there's probably going to be not a whole lot you guys are going to get to say. I apologize for that. But there's a lot of real quick bullet points I want to hit, and we'll see how fast I can get through them, okay? All right, if you're new, okay, one of the things that we do differently here, I'm not doing a Torah portion teaching, okay? What I'm going to do is hit some of the important bullet points that I want to make sure you didn't miss, okay? I want to emphasize some things that you read, all right? Because to do a teaching, I'd have to take some idea that's in the Torah portion and then go flesh it out all over the rest of the Bible. Okay, we're not going to do that this cycle with this, okay? But remember, the main point, and I should have said this before the readings, you are looking for in the Torah portions, unlike other ministries, I don't tell you, well, you need to look for Messiah in there. Well, we can certainly do that, so I'm not against that. The reason you go through this every year is not to look for Messiah. You could do that once and find him or not find him in wherever you look, right? This is about what can you take out of it that's going to help you become like Messiah, okay? This is how can I learn from what these people were doing. If they were doing something well, I can imitate them. If they're doing something dumb, I can avoid doing that, okay? So it's about seeing you in the Torah portion, all right? So hopefully we understand that. I wasn't belittling looking for Messiah, okay? But that's not what we're doing at the moment. I want you to find the aspects that ultimately help you become Messiah, which, by the way, is the same thing as looking for Messiah in a certain way, right? Okay? Now, so we start in verse 26 of chapter 3. Okay, now we read this a little bit in another place as we go through the Torah cycles where, Yahweh was mad at Moshe. Okay, he says, but Yahweh was enraged with me for your sake, would not listen to me. This is when, in 25, he goes, I pray, let me pass over to see the good land of the, Moses is saying, I know you said no, but can I still go over into the land? Okay? Now, so he says he was enraged for your sake. So why was he mad at Moses for everybody else's sake? Because Moses was asking a very terribly dangerous thing that would have undermined anything for everybody else, which is if Yahweh changes a judgment, then what's there to stand on in terms of his judgments? He says, I am Yahweh, I do not change, right? Messiah, we said, we know he's the same yesterday, today, and forever, right? So we have a certain tremendous, solid, foundational reliability factor in here. We can count on him, right? So he says he enraged with me for your sake and would not listen to me. See, the key thing is he wouldn't listen to me. I wanted him to change his mind. Then somebody thinking, well, what about when he said to Moses, I'm going to kill everybody and start again with you, and then Moses talked him out of it. That was a test of Moses. That wasn't actually something he'd already made a judgment on. When he said to Moses, Moses, you don't get to go in. That was an official judgment, okay? It's not like when he went there and sat down with Abraham and said, Abram, I'm thinking of destroying Sodom and Gomorrah. I just want to let you know and see what you feel about that. And he goes, well, what if there's, 50 righteous? And what if there's, okay? That wasn't a negotiation. That was Yahweh trying to figure out or allowing Abraham to show where his heart was at, okay? This was a test of Abraham. Nobody, and this is something that I believe very differently than the Jewish community, nobody's ever made Yahweh change his mind. Okay? Because if he did, then what's there to stand on? Because that means somebody else might get him to change his mind about something else. So we don't have anything to stand on if that's the case. So no, that's never happened. Okay? But look what he said after that. This is for all of you and leadership. If you ask Yahweh, and Yahweh's already said no, you might want to just leave him alone because he said, enough of that, speak no more to me about this matter. Enough of that means don't argue against Yahweh's decisions. Yahweh made a decision, that's it. Don't argue with it. By the way, that may mean you have a physical issue that he just decides not to take away. Don't argue with it. Because some of you think, well, certainly he would have compassion. Well, this is Moses. Look at all the great things he did, and yet he didn't get to get in the land. Now, I personally think that was doing him a favor because he'd already had enough with these crazy people for 40 years. I thought this was like compassion saying, no, Moses, let the younger guy take over. You got to deal with these insane people long enough. Okay? All right? So, but Moses was like, but I didn't check. He was very blue at the moment going, but I didn't finish my task. We got all the way here, and I want to go in the land. I need my little checkbox. Okay? I bet you never thought of it that way, did you? All the color code people here, right? Has a little blue moment there. Okay? And so, just so you understand, you can get this way. This is you. Look for you in that. Now, when Yahweh hasn't made a decision, certainly you can, petition him on your behalf of what you want. But once he's made a decision, you sit there going, okay. What happened with King David? Remember King David had a situation with a baby? What did he do once the baby died? He just got up and got over and moved on. Because he realized there was no reason to keep petitioning. The answer was no. That was it. Okay? So once you know the answer, stop complaining and whining and just get up and move on. Whatever that is. You got your answer. Now you got to figure out how to deal with it. Because you got your answer. All right? Okay. So enough of that. Keep reminding yourself. Anytime you start doing that, enough of that. Yahweh made his decision. Time to move on. Okay? Okay, verse 28. Yahweh says to charge Yehoshua and strengthen him and make him brave, for he shall pass over before this people and cause them to inherit the land which you see. So Moses, this is what we would call a discipleship sort of moment, right? So Moses in discipling and passing the baton to his disciple is to strengthen him and make him brave. Now, why would that actually work? Because Moses has already been through what Joshua was about to go through. And so Moses can say, You can do this. I've done it. I know you. I've trained you. You can do this. A father to a son, a parent to a child. If they can respect you, they could receive that. Joshua certainly respected Moshe, no problem. Your child, maybe not so much. Okay? Because you know you could help that child out. That child's looking like, what did I listen to you for? You don't know what you're doing. Because they don't know what they're doing. They just, they're all rocket scientists and, whatever, and brilliant. They're such geniuses. They can't make their own lunch, but they're geniuses, right? Okay? Just send them to the supermarket to see what they come back with. We'll see geniuses, okay? If they even know how to get there. Okay, now, so this is just one of those things, but notice that it comes through the vertical, right? Moses is commanding and encouraging and strengthening Joshua. All right, let's get to chapter 4. Verse 1, and now, O Israel, listen to the laws and the right rulings which I am teaching you to do so that you live. I don't know how else to emphasize. All you Christians listening, I'm not picking on you. Listen to me. Every time your church tells you the law was terrible, mean, and horrible, and whatever, this is the Creator telling us the law was so that you would do them and that you would live. The law was to live by. It would bring abundant life. So that you live, and you shall go in and possess the land which Yahweh, your Elohim of your fathers, is giving you. Now, also you Christians listening, and you Jews listening, he says, do not add to the word, my Jewish brothers. Do not take away from the word, my Christian brothers. You guys are messing up verse 2 on both sides of the aisle here, okay? Do not add to the word which I am commanding you, do not take away from it, so as to guard the commands of Yahweh, your Elohim, which I am commanding you. The commands of Yahweh, not the commands of men, not the commands of the church, but the commands of Yahweh, your Elohim. We're not to add or take away from them. So let's make sure we're paying attention. As a matter of fact, it starts off in verse 4 with listen to the laws. Listen. See, we have a problem listening. Go listen to the teaching called Are You Listening? Okay? Do not add or take away. By the way, this is repeated in Deuteronomy 12:32. So he says it more than once here. Now, verse 3, he says, your eyes have seen what Yahweh did. Your eyes have seen. So to make his point, all right, to make his point, he's going to remind them what they experienced. Why is he doing that? So that they would look at him correctly. See, you don't always look at him correctly because your eyes have seen, but you forgot what you've seen in your life. But your eyes have seen. Okay? So he's saying your eyes have seen what he did at Baal Peor, for Yahweh your Elohim has destroyed from all you missed all the followers of Baal Peor. So he's going to go through some of these examples, but this is for you. Think about what your eyes have seen. Because why is he telling them? To remind them, this is what your Elohim is capable of. This is how he can protect you. This is what he does to his enemies, etc., right? So your eyes have seen this too. And you have these accounts, which Paul says are examples for us too, to encourage us, right? Your eyes have seen. Now look at verse 4. But you who are clinging to Yahweh, your Elohim, are alive today. In other words, not everybody made it to Deuteronomy. Okay? They didn't make it through the desert. He said, but you who are clinging made it through. So go listen to Cling, Cleave, Hold Fast. All right? Important teaching. He says, it doesn't say you who just kind of made it along and happen to still be here. It's the ones who are clinging. Think about what clinging looks like. You ever have a child not want to let go? Yeah, so that was a couple of parents going, ha, 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 ha. A lot of fun, isn't it? But the strength that that child has, and it seems like they have 6 arms and 4 legs as they wrap around yours and you can't peel them off, okay? That's clinging. That's clinging. When you ever see in the movies, the storm is blowing so much that they're on a boat and the storm is, and the people like flying sideways, holding onto a pole, right? The wind's blowing so hard and the boat's tipping. They're clinging onto that thing, right? Are you clinging onto Torah, onto Yahweh, onto Messiah? Are you clinging? Because it says, in the end, okay, this is your metaphor. The land is a metaphor for what? The kingdom, the forever. Those who made it to this point were those who were clinging to Yahweh. So let that be a beautiful metaphor for you. He says, but you who are clinging to Yahweh your Elohim are alive today. Okay? You know what you're going to hear in the end, when after judgment, the whole well done, good and trustworthy servant, you're also going to hear, you who clung to me, you are here alive today. That's what you want to hear. But you got to be clinging to him. All right? He says, every one of you. So he doesn't, anybody who's clinging, he's not losing any of them. He says, every one of you, right? Every one of them that was doing this. Now in verses 6 through 8, my question is, do you have the ability to say these words and feel the same way? Listen. And you shall guard to do these laws, right? He says in verse 5, I have taught you the laws and right rulings as Yahweh commanded me to do so in the land, right? He says, you shall guard to do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding before the eyes of the peoples who hear all these laws. And they shall say, only a wise and understanding people is this great nation. So people keeping the law, Christianity, pay attention, people keeping the law were considered wise and understanding above all the nations. Wow. For what great nation is there which has an Elohim so near to it as Yahweh, our Elohim, is to us whenever we call on him? And what great nation is there that has such laws and righteous right rulings that are so awful and terrible that we need to do away with them? Does it say any of that nonsense? What great nation is there that has such laws and righteous right rulings like all this Torah which I set before you this day? Only guard yourself and guard your life diligently, lest you forget the words your eyes have seen, lest you turn aside from your heart all the days of your life, and you shall make them known to your children and your grandchildren. Are we actually embracing this ourselves? I mean, is this... Moses is saying this, and we should be like, we agree. We see it the same way. See, but you were taught this differently on Sunday. Okay? And all you Christians, don't get mad at me. Go ask your pastors to help you understand how Deuteronomy 4 disappeared. Because the way they teach it, there is no Deuteronomy 4. Okay? Or 5 or 6 or... I mean, we just wipe out Deuteronomy. Okay? Verse 9. Only guard yourself and guard your life diligently, right? This is the important thing. He says, are you going to do these things? All right? In verse 15, it says, therefore diligently guard yourselves, for you saw no man before, etc. But diligently guarding yourself. Verse 23, the same idea. He says, guard yourselves lest you forget the covenant. In other words, you have the role of guarding yourself. Notice that he never said he was going to do this for you. You have to guard yourself, and you are responsible. You ready for this? I said this many times. You are primarily responsible for all aspects of your life. Okay? So you have to guard yourself. By the way, it doesn't say guard your neighbor who's posting on Facebook, who's pissing you off or whatever. It says guard yourself. Okay? That should keep you busy plenty anyway. I don't know how you have any free time to guard anything else. Okay? Guard yourself. Philippians 2 says, right, verse 12, you shall work out your own salvation in fear and trembling. Guard yourself. Watch over is really the word. It's the idea of being a watchman. Watch over yourself. Okay? Pay attention to yourself. Let's see. What else I want to come to? Skip that. Let's see. Let's go to 25 and 26, because it's already getting after. We're still in chapter 4. It'll speed up here at some point. All right, 25. When you bring forth children and grandchildren shall grow old in the land and shall do corruptly and make a... Wait a minute. They haven't even gotten in there yet. And he's already prophesying how they're going to mess this thing up. But how would you feel? Because I know children get mad at the parents saying something like, but you don't trust me. I'm not going to mess it up. Oh, I know you already. Yeah. Okay. But this is prophecy of their future failure in keeping the covenant. And you know their ego and their pride, like all human beings, are like, oh, no, I'm not going to mess this up. Well, okay. He said, but you're going to do corruptly, and you're going to do what's evil in the eyes of Yahweh, your Elohim, to provoke him. I call the heavens and the earth to witness against you on that day that you soon completely perish from the land which you pass over to possess. You do not prolong your days in it, but are completely destroyed. He's saying, nope. Nope. Verse 28, right? And he says, and there, in verse 27, he's going to scatter you among the peoples, and you shall be left few in number. This is all the future prophecy, and that it happened. They did that, and he did his thing. And we're still in that right now. Okay? Now, he does give us, in verses 29 to 31, the prophecy of their restoration. Okay? He says, but from there, where they're scattered and, and dispersed among everywhere, he says, but from there you shall seek Yahweh your Elohim and shall find. And when you search for him with all your heart and with all your being, in your distress, when all these words shall come upon you in the latter days, then you shall return to Yahweh your Elohim and shall just believe in Messiah because there's no law to do anymore. What's it say? It says, in your distress, in the dispersion, in the latter days, you're going to realize you need to return to Yahweh and obey his voice, which, by the way, is the covenant. You agreed in Exodus 19 to obey his voice. You're like, well, I didn't agree. Well, if you're going to be grafted in, you did. Oh, no, we're under the new covenant now. Yes, you are newly covenanting to do what he said in Exodus 19. You are new to doing that. The covenant is not any different. The difference is you. It was them, now it's you. The covenant's the same covenant. Okay? So what's new is he's making it with you. Okay? Maybe that's a new way to put that for everybody to understand. What's new about the new covenant? It's with you. All the other terms are exactly the same. Okay? Nothing else is different, except that this one's with you. That one was with them. But do we know that Yahweh says that he's not a respecter of persons? He judges with fairness, right? No partiality. So would it be fair to give you a quote-unquote easier covenant than those who had to keep all of this? Of course not. That would certainly be partiality and lack of fairness and, elevating one group over another in some way. So what's new is you being in it. That's the new part. It's the same covenant. But he's saying is, from there, which is where we are now, in the dispersion, he says, you are going to seek Yahweh your Elohim. He popped your bubble, made you aware, and you started looking for him. Okay? And when you find him, when you search him with all your heart, you'll find him. And in the distress, when these days shall come upon you latter days, then you shall return to Yahweh, your Elohim, and obey his voice. For Yahweh your El is a compassionate El who does not forsake you nor destroy you. Now, we're going to talk about this tomorrow in the repentance teaching I'm doing. Not like the first one, okay? Now, this time, you're going to find out that there is, because I know a lot of people want to know this answer to this question. What's the good news? Well, there it is right there, okay? And we're going to see it literally come out in the repentance verses. It's because the good news was right here. You know what the bad news was? You guys are going to mess this up and go into dispersion. You know what the good news is? I'm going to bring you out of there when you own it, repent, which is missing in these verses. Other verses say it, though. Own it, repent, and teshuvah, and then you get back on the path and you obey my voice. Okay? Which is actually in that when it says, you shall return. And we will use this verse, I promise you, in the teaching at some point. Okay? You shall return. This is the good news. I'm not saying that Messiah being born, died and resurrected, sitting at the right hand is not good news. I'm saying everything that he did was to start this. It was about this. Okay, and you're going to see that, all right? Now, the good news is that there's a process, and he tells you what it is called repentance and covenant, okay? So a little preview. Okay, let a little bit of the cat out of the bag there, right? Well, because it's right here. I mean, it's right. I might even start with this a little bit or put this in there somewhere. It's right here, okay? It just doesn't have the word good news on it. But you know what? Other verses do, and we're going to read them, okay? Because it wasn't my intention even to make it a good news teaching, except that I kept finding it in the verses that I was dealing with repentance. Isn't that interesting? Okay? Who knew, right? He did. Okay. So then, in verse 32, we start regaining perspective in the vertical, all right? So what we see here is, for ask now in the days that are past, which were from before, since the day that Elohim created the man on the earth, ask from one end of the heavens to the other end of the heavens, whether there has been a word as great as this, or has been heard like it. This is the thing that everybody in the New Testament is trying to convince us that it's terrible stuff. This is so great that nowhere in the heavens could you even hear something this great. Has the people heard the voice of Elohim speaking out of the midst of the fire, as you've heard and live? Or has Elohim tried to go and take for himself a nation in the midst of a nation by trials, by signs and wonders, in battle, by strong hand and outstretched arm, and by great and fearsome deeds, according to all that Yahweh your Elohim did for you in Mitzrayim before your eyes? You have been shown it, to know that Yahweh himself is Elohim, there's none beside him. I mean, he's giving this whole huge perspective thing, right? From the heavens, he let you hear his voice to instruct you, and on the earth he showed you his fire, his great fire, and you heard his words out of the midst of the fire. And because he loved your fathers, therefore he chose their seed after them and brought you out of Mitzrayim with his presence, with his great power, to drive out from before you the nations greater and stronger than you, to bring in, to give you their inheritance as an inheritance as it is today. And you shall know today, you shall recall to your heart that Yahweh himself is Elohim in the heavens above and in the heavens above and on the earth below. There is none else. And you shall guard his laws, his commands, which I command you today, so that it is well with you. Good stuff. So it is well with you and with your children after you, so that you prolong your days in the soil, which Yahweh your Elohim is giving you for all time. Your Sunday preacher isn't telling you this stuff. You know what? Get mad. They're hiding stuff from you. They're keeping stuff from you. Not only are they keeping, well, you said the good stuff. It's not just the good stuff, it's the important, necessary stuff. Okay? You're like an empty vessel without this stuff. Okay? You got a lot of emotion, but no substance. Because that's all the church is giving you, is a lot of emotion and no substance. Because this is the substance. Don't get mad at me. Don't get mad at them either. They just know what they know. Make a decision, though, to go get your own good stuff. Okay? I mean, if you've been being fed, donuts your whole life and never had real food, now someone's offering you real food, don't get mad at the person giving you the donuts. Just go start getting some real food. You understand? Okay? When you come to find out there's other things to eat and there's things that are healthier, well, then go. Why do you keep eating the junk? But that's what you've been doing. Let's see. Okay, chapter 5. Hey, we got to chapter 5. Good for us. I'm so happy. All right. Chapter 5 and verse 6. So we start getting into the commandments, right? Okay. So before we actually get into the commandments, so starting here in verse 6, we get the very first one, just so you understand. In scriptural and Jewish understanding, commandment 1 is, I am Yahweh your Elohim who brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim. That's commandment 1. Okay? People think commandment 1 is, you shall have no other mighty ones against my face. No. Okay? That's part of commandment 2, which then has the idolatry. That's all part of the idolatry. Commandment 1 is, I am Yahweh who brought you out. Okay? Christianity won't give you that. Okay? That's it. The whole first commandment is right there in verse 6. It says, I am Yahweh Elohim who brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim, out of the house of bondage. That's commandment 1. In other words, you're commanded to understand that's who did it. Because the rest of it doesn't flow if you don't understand who you're dealing with. Okay? Then commandment 2, which is the 2 verses, you are to have no other mighty ones against my face. You're not to make an image of one. That's how you have mighty ones against his face. Okay, so that's one commandment. Then the third commandment is about taking his name and making it nothing, right? Fourth commandment, the Sabbath. Fifth commandment, parents, right? And honoring and respecting. So you got to go through those. All right. I'm going to skip that. Okay. And some of these things I'm skipping, go look at last year's. And and also some of the things I'm skipping, go wait until you go through Deuteronomy at Sukkot. You can always cover whatever. I only have so much time. It's already 9:30, right? And I'm barely into chapter 5. All right. This is interesting. Verse 24. We're going to skip the 10 commandments. It's been gone over 1 million times, okay? Let's go to verse 24. It says, see, Yahweh our Elohim has shown us and his esteem and his greatness, and we have heard his voice from the midst of the fire. Today we've seen that Elohim speaks with man and he lives. And now why should we die? For this great fire is consuming us. If we hear the voice of Yahweh our Elohim anymore, then we shall die. For who is there of all flesh who has heard the voice of the living Elohim speaking from the midst of the fire as we have and does live? You ready for this? Hearing Yahweh kills the flesh. I've said this before, you might not have remembered it. See, it didn't say that he kills people. He says, who's heard Yahweh? And he just killed everybody. The flesh doesn't want to hear it. The flesh interrupted. The flesh is why they stopped him from speaking. They interrupted him after Commandment 10 and said, we can't take this because their flesh was dying. The voice of Yahweh kills flesh. Okay? Hearing Yahweh kills the flesh. Then we get down to verse 29, because this is why he wants your flesh dead. He says, oh, that they had such a heart in them to fear me and to guard all my commands always, not just till Messiah came, blah, 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 so that it might be well with them and with their children forever. See, you can't have this heart if your flesh is still there. He's got to kill your flesh, or otherwise your heart can't possibly get this way. Okay? Because it's battling in that emotional space called the heart. The flesh is battling with you wanting to have the heart in you to do these things. He says, oh, that they had such a heart, but they don't. We prove it over and over again. We have issues. Okay? Verse 31. But you stand here by me, and let me speak to you all the commands of Moses, and the laws and the right rulings which you are to teach them, and they shall do them in the land which I am giving to them to possess. And you shall guard to do as Yahweh your Elohim has commanded you. Do not turn aside to the right or the left. Walk in all the way which Yahweh your Elohim has commanded you, so that you live and it be well with you, and you shall prolong your days in the land. Okay, so what we have going on here is he's making it really clear about the vertical structure again. Moshe was to teach the people Yahweh's Torah. See, this whole idea that the Ruach now teaches you everything is not scriptural. Okay, Ruach brings to remembrance if you have it in you. And what is it you have to have in you to bring the remembrance? Teaching. His teaching, which he does through his teachers. Ephesians 4:11. Anointed, appointed, fivefold teachers. Okay? In this case, it was Moshe doing the teaching. And so he reemphasizes that here. Okay? He says, they shall do, he says, you're going to teach them and they're going to do them in the land. All right? Then he says, do not turn aside right or left. Which again we find in Deuteronomy 17 when we get there. When they give instruction, people are not supposed to go left or right. So just go exactly what you're instructed. And then it says, walk in all his ways. Okay? Walk in all the way which Yahweh Elohim has commanded you, so that you live. All in all, everything says all. So for everybody out there who wants to get into this whole, well, only some of the Torah is for us, the other stuff was against us, and this and this and this. There's a lot of nonsense being taught out there. All by people who want to do less. Okay? If Yahweh said it, why wouldn't you want to do it? Well, because it was, no, you can't say it was bad, mean, or if he gave it to them and said it was good, then you can't say it wasn't good. He said it was good. He said it was for their benefit. He said it was to bless them. He said it was so that they would be well with them. Don't turn it into something opposite of what he actually said. Okay, you can't call it something he didn't call it. All right? Usually you guys are out there calling it the opposite of what he called it. That's not going to work. Okay? Chapter 6. Yay. All right. There's a lot in this one. And I skipped a bunch of stuff too. And this is the command, the laws and the right rulings, verse 1, which Yahweh your Elohim has commanded. Ready for this? The laws and the right rulings are for this purpose, to teach you to do in the land which you are passing over to possess, so that you fear. So it's teaching you what you're supposed to do in the land, what you're supposed to do in the kingdom. The land is a metaphor for the kingdom. To teach you what you are to do, so that you fear Yahweh, to guard all his laws, his commands, which I command you, you and your son and your grandson, all the days of your life, etc., etc., all the days of your life. Oh, but that was for them. I want that if it's for them. Don't you want what he just offered them? So don't tell me it was for them. Because even if that's true, why wouldn't you want it? Okay? Good point. Rippy goes, we are them. Well, we graft in and become them. Because once you're Israel, you're Israel. Okay? then it's all talking about you. But the whole point is, why would you not understand to read this? You know why? Because your pastor never took you to the left of Matthew. Okay? Because, except you read about a flood and maybe a snake in a garden and, that kind of thing. But you didn't, maybe David and Goliath or something. You just did not look at the important things about life and your becoming him and your walk. You just didn't do it. They didn't take you there. That wasn't interesting to them. Okay? Okay, then in chapter 6, we have the Shema and the Ve'ahavta. Okay, so hear, O Israel, the Shema, and then verse 5 through 9 is the Ve'ahavta, and you shall love Yahweh with all your heart, might, and being. Look, this is telling you that it's 24/7 no matter what you're doing, right? It says when you lie down, when you rise up, when you're outside, when you're in the house, it doesn't matter. Everywhere you go, everything you do, as frontless before your eyes, so you're thinking and seeing through the Torah, the actions of your hands, how you're walking, everything's included in this, okay? And he wants all. He wants you to do this with all you've got, not half whatever, okay? Okay? He wants you to do it with all, diligently, right? As a matter of fact, that's the next verse I want to go to. Look at verse 17. He says, diligently guard the commands of Yahweh your Elohim and his witnesses and his laws which he has commanded you. Now listen to verse 18. This is where we get all screwed up. It says, and you shall do what is right and good in the eyes of Yahweh, not the eyes of your mother, your father, your pastor, whoever, your best friend, your boss. You have to do what's right in his eyes. I got a whole teaching called Whose Eyes Are You Right In? You might want to go watch that one, okay? By the way, for all you new people, we don't sell any of the teachings. They're all free on YouTube. Go find them. They're also on Apple Music. They're also on Spotify. They're also everywhere. They're everywhere. Just go find them. All right, they're free. But diligently guard, he says. See, a lot of you are sloppily guarding or barely guarding or every now and then you remember. He says diligently. All right. So, kind of picture that guard. They got the gun and they're standing on duty, right? They've got their weapon. And so, they're standing there. And they're starting to nod off and they're watching another. They're supposed to be looking this way, but they're kind of just distracted. No, you are on duty. Right? You got your weapon and you're awake, alert, and paying attention. Well, you're supposed to be watching what you're doing, what you're thinking, what you're doing, what you're saying, how you're behaving. All of you have, if you've had children or if you've been around people with children, those children, the younger they are, they need to be watched more or they get in trouble. Well, guess what? You become an adult and you still need to be watched more, but by you. Now the responsibility is yours. You don't have a parent anymore to watch over you. You have to watch over you and guard diligently what you're doing, right? All right. I had other references that cover that same idea of doing what's right in the eyes of Yahweh. Okay, I'll just cover them real quick. So like in Romans 12, it says in verse 1, I call upon you, therefore, brothers, through the compassion of Elohim, to present your bodies a living offering, set apart, well-pleasing to Elohim, your reasonable worship. And do not be transformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, so that you prove what is that good and well-pleasing and perfect desire of Elohim, which is to keep his commandments. I know I just pulled that out of the air. It was just a random thought. There wasn't the 5,000 times he said it in Deuteronomy alone, that's his desire, and that's what's well-pleasing to him. Ephesians 5, okay? Because in case you guys didn't want to know that this stuff is actually in your New Testament, all right? Verse 6, let no one deceive you with empty words. The law's done away with. For because of these, the wrath of Elohim comes on the sons of disobedience. Yes, the law's done away with. So all of you are busy running around disobeying because you don't know anymore. All right? Therefore, do not be partakers with them. For you were once darkness, but now you are light in the Master. Walk as children of light. For the fruit of the Spirit is in all goodness and righteousness and truth, proving what is well-pleasing to the Master. Let's see. In chapter 14 of John, in verse 15, he says, if you love me, do you think that when he says if you love me, that means that you're doing something pleasing to him? Guard the commands. I know it's a stretch. I mean, to just take it at what it says. I know that's really tough. By the way, in that verse in Ephesians 5, it said, you once were in darkness, but now you're in the light. Walk in children of light. And listen to what he says. The fruit of the Spirit is in all goodness and righteousness. What defines righteousness? The law. Okay? There's a verse in Deuteronomy that says, because it's your righteousness. Okay? The law, that's the definition of the law, is righteousness. The definition of righteousness. So, and truth. The Torah is truth. Yeshua is the truth. We have all that loop, tying them together. Goodness gracious. Back to chapter 6 of Deuteronomy, verse 24. And Yahweh commanded us to do all these laws, to fear Yahweh our Elohim for our good always, to keep us alive. He said it again. For our good, to keep us alive. Is this like Martian language to you or something? I mean, what is so hard? It's a consistent message all the way through. And you're listening to some genius, seminary graduating, whatever, talking head on YouTube who's telling you that the law is awful and nobody can keep it and it's just this terrible thing and it was nailed to the cross because it was this terrible thing. What Bible are they using? Well, you know, listen, if Paul really said that, then you need to throw him out because he clearly didn't understand Deuteronomy. But see, I know that Paul was a student of Gamaliel, and he knew the Bible, the Old Testament, not only, by heart, but like by word for, he memorized it. Because that's what a student of Gamaliel would have had to done. Okay? Oh, he knew. As a matter of fact, in one of his epistles, he quotes directly out of Deuteronomy 30, which also has the same thing in it. Elevating the law. See, but you don't want to hear that because that just totally ruins your whole life and messes with all your plans. And, by the way, I'm sorry. Wait, put the pork down. Thank you. Okay. All right. Okay. Some of you, or your shrimp cocktail or whatever it is you think you're enjoying. Okay. Now, I know it was a stretch, my claim about righteousness, but look at the next verse. Verse 25. It says, and it is righteousness for us when we guard to do all the command. There you go. Just like we just read in Ephesians. It is righteousness for us when we guard to do all the command before Yahweh Elohim as he commanded us. That's your definition from him, not from some pastor or somebody else. He just told you what righteous behavior is. It is righteousness for us when we do what he said. Okay. All right. Chapter 7, I only have 2 there, and then we'll be done. There we go. And we still have plenty of time. All right, chapter 7. Okay, this is something that I know is really tough, and I mean this not sarcastically, okay? Because I know it's very hard to be in a sort of small pond, hoping one day to meet somebody and get married and that kind of thing. And this can be challenging. But he says, do not intermarry with them. Okay, the them being of those outside of covenant. All right? We're not racially motivated here. We're not this motivated here. Okay, this is not a prejudice thing. He's saying if you intermarry with people not in covenant, you're going to have problems. And more than likely, they're going to pull you their way, not you the other way. Okay? I have a lot of Jewish cousins that married Christians, and guess what they all are and their children all are? Christian. Nobody ended up all Jewish. Okay? The law loses out in an intermarriage. Okay? He says, don't intermarry with them. You don't give your daughter to his son, and you do not take his daughter for your son. Okay? Again, this is something you need to understand. I'm not going to say that it's to be, just take it as great counsel from the above. I'm telling you, I counsel a lot of people that are intermarried. And intermarried, I mean by their belief system, not their skin color or their whatever, what country they were born in or culture or something. I'm talking about their beliefs, okay? Because beliefs come into every aspect of life, okay? You like rock and roll, and this other one likes country music. That's fine. You may never have that problem. It's something that doesn't come up all the time. But Torah comes up all the time. You like Italian food and this one likes Chinese food. Fine. It doesn't come up all the time, right? But some aspect of Torah comes up all the time. Like what food we eat, no matter what style it is a Torah issue. What songs and music we listen to based on the words and the message may be a Torah issue. What days we keep, how we raise our children. Okay? So just kind of keep that in mind. Do not intermarry with non-covenanted people. Yeshua says don't be unequally yoked with non-believers. Okay? Now, again, this is not a racial thing. I don't care if you're white and the other one's black and you get married. I don't care. That's great if you believe the same. Okay? I don't care if you're green and that. Well, it doesn't matter. That's not, Scripture doesn't care what color you are. Okay? I'm just saying. Okay? I've seen some really bad marriages that are intercolored and really good marriages that are, because it matters is what are they doing with the rest of the stuff? The skin color is not the reason they're fighting. It's also not the reason they're getting along if the skin color is the same. I see a lot of people with the same skin color fighting like crazy. All right? It's about beliefs. Two can't walk together unless they agree. What's the most important thing to agree on? Your beliefs. Okay? And it's not just this type of stuff. We'll take it into the secular world. If you think stealing's okay, even though it's a Torah issue, and I don't, we're going to have a problem in our relationship. Okay? If you think committing adultery is okay and I don't, we're going to have a problem in our relationship. If you think, whatever, just keep adding more things that even the secular world thinks are problematic. Okay? We're going to have a problem. I'm just throwing that out there. So there's a scripture for it right there in chapter 7. But I want to make sure people understand this is nothing about race. This is about belief systems. Okay? It's very important. Okay? We cannot be racist. That's just insanely disrespectful to the Creator, actually, more than anything else. Okay? He made everybody every color that he made them, and that's it. What's the difference? I mean, the funniest part is I love all the white people that have a problem with the black people, yet they want to go outside and become black. They lay in the sun and buy all the products to try to change their skin color. I don't understand that. You big hypocrites. Yes, I did say that out loud, yes. But it cracks me up. Now, I was very blessed. I lived in an international, multi-everything neighborhood, and so I never was taught any prejudice. Okay, everybody was just everybody, okay? But other people were not raised that way, and they were raised with these things. But so I used to laugh and watch these people get so mad at, white against black or whatever, and I was like, and I'm watching them put this reflectors on and everything to try to turn as brown as they can. Okay, hypocrite much? Anyway, it's just really dumb. Okay, it's just really dumb. This is really dumb. Okay, people are people, that's it, okay? But people believe different things. That's where you end up with your problems. Okay? Almost every problem in a marriage is that the two of them believe about marriage differently. Okay? So when you believe, your beliefs matter. And if you're clinging, if you are diligently guarding, and your spouse is not a part of that clinging and diligently guarding, you're going to run into challenges. There's no two ways about it, okay? That doesn't mean it can't work. It's just a terrible idea, and the odds of it working are very small. It's a terrible idea, okay? All right. I guess we can even skip this last piece. I'll just skip over that. All right. So that being said, that's going to do it. All right, so we're going to go ahead and allow for comments, questions, if you want to come on up. And if you're online, you can start typing in. We got about 45 minutes maybe. So go ahead, Mr. Tom.
Thank you, Rabbi. I appreciate the teaching. During your teaching, going over the Torah and the Torah portion, I had this connection I was trying to make, and I want to get your opinion on it. The thought came into my mind about in Matthew 6:19 through 20, about laying up yourself treasures in heaven. And what I want to compare it to is Deuteronomy 6, by doing the things that Yahweh wants, by keeping his Torah, by teaching our children.
Right.
And in a way, is that not laying up treasures in heaven? Instead of, and I guess before that, men were trying to fast and appear righteous in front of people, but isn't it better to seek Yahweh's will by doing what he asks? Is that truly seeking to lay up treasures in heaven, or can you expand on that?
Yeah, no, I think that your analogy works very well, and you're piecing those areas together. I would expand it by saying, let's reword that a little bit, and saying, do the things that are treasured in heaven. That's how you get your treasures in heaven, okay? Okay, so for example, if we're using the value of like financial things, right? And you came and gave me to hold on for you some gold. Gold is something that has value that we agree on. But if you thought that if you gave me some artwork you made when you were 3 and thought this was also a treasure, well, not from the right perspective of like a financial instrument or whatever. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So when he's saying when he's calling something treasure, it's something of value that's recognized by the above as value. So your analogy works from that point of view. Not something you think is valuable, but what did they think is valuable? Because if we're doing something in business, I'm sorry, but your 8-year-old artwork is not valuable to me. Maybe to your parent it was. No, I'm not saying. Children's artwork is very valuable to a parent. So as a matter of fact, some parents keep it forever because they just like to hoard things. Some of you just throw it all out. Okay. Okay, but the thing is, when we're talking about value, value is subjective. Can we agree? Okay, so if we're trying to put treasures in heaven or the above, then it has to be something that subjectively is considered treasure by the above. And so the analogy works well.
Thank you.
But I just thought that additional, tweaking of it makes so you understand. So it's not like it's this point scoring system, okay? But when you make a good decision Torah-wise in your life, when you make a choice based on Torah that's correct, okay, your boss wants you to come in on Saturday and you don't, this is a treasure that is treasured by the Father in heaven, okay? It's valuable to him, and he's proud of you. These are things that are right in his eyes, or things that are treasured. Maybe that's a good way to put it. Those things that are right in his eyes, he treasures when you do them, okay? All right, Janet?
Thank you, Rabbi. I appreciate your teaching today. So many things happen, that you gave me today in this Torah portion that I'll definitely want to keep and using it, put it in practice. When you were just saying right now, when you make a good decision based on Torah, that's treasured by your Father in heaven. So I have to, this is related to the do not intermarry. So I have two very long-lasting relationships with 2 friends. They're really close to me. We became really friends back in college in Peru. So I know them for 25, 30 years, whatever it is. So the last time I was there, one of them was getting married. And it was on a Shabbat. And I literally said, I can't, right? So I didn't go. We got together afterwards. And so we were 3. My other friend invited us to her house for dinner. And she bought food for us, and she bought some lasagna. And I was like, okay, what type of meat is it? And she was like, I thought of you. I triple-checked that it was just going to be beef. There's nothing in there. I assure you, you can eat it. They don't walk Torah at all, but they both were very understanding when I said, no, I can't do that. And my other friend being so considerate. So my question, I know it says do not intermarry, but I really love my friends, and they really care about me, and they really respect my walk. And I don't see them much. I go,
All right, so look, I know what you're going with. Okay, so I was just thinking of the inverse phrasing, which is, it says don't be unequally yoked. Well, that means that you should be equally yoked. In other words, if you can agree on certain things, and those certain things you are yoking or you're pulling in the same direction with. So you're in agreement. I have friends that are not in this walk, but we have very specifically limited areas that we interact on, that we are in agreement on. By the way, you do that with your friends anyway. Even if it's not Torah-wise, there may be things you just don't agree with. Okay? Right now, the whole country is being split between Democrat and Republican, right? So people that are one may not be so friends with the other one on if they're going to talk about that. But if they agree by equally yoking themselves till we won't talk about politics, then maybe they can get along fine. And they talk about something else that they agree on, right? Okay, so just like you have family members who want to argue about religion, well, maybe you could be okay when you talk about things other than that, right? So that's, but the thing with intermarrying, though, is that in the depth of that day-to-day, everyday relationship, there's the tendency for one to pull in the other way because we're only that comfortable with people that are, the more they are like us, the more that we're in agreement with it, the more we're comfortable. Which is why a lot of marriages get really tough, is because they come to realize after they get married that they really weren't in that much of an agreement about everything, except that they both lusted after each other before they got married or whatever it was. So they had that passion going on to whatever degree, but they hadn't really realized, but there's a whole lot of other things we don't agree on at all. And then they're like, how'd I end up in this place? Okay? Because like my friends that I just talk football with, I only talk a couple of times a year when it's football season. Other friends who I talk music with, I only talk music with. We don't talk about the other stuff that would only lead to arguments and fights and everything else, okay? But that's, again, the unequally yoked thing also has to do with the idea of instruction. Yoking is also a discipleship phrase, right? So you don't want to be with unbelievers that are yoked under other instruction that might influence you. You have to be very careful with that. So again, yoking also has the idea of putting two animals together under a yoke and they pull together. As long as you guys are on the same page in an area and you talk on that same page and you move to, that's fine. Okay, I'm not saying you shouldn't be friends with anybody in the world. Just don't become of the world. Okay? So no, you don't have to end any of your friendships. I haven't ended any of mine. No, that's not true. I've ended friendships because we're just so off and not on the same page. There's just no reason to we don't have any reason to be friends. Okay, but there's got to be more than just the walk. Okay? I mean, there's a lot of people in the walk that are actually pretty good at the walk that I'm not that friends with because we don't have anything else. Okay? I mean, I don't not like them or anything. We just don't have enough chemistry on the things we agree on. Okay? We don't have enough things in common, right? Two walking together has to do with how much you agree about or you have in common, right? And the more you have in common with the person you marry, the more you're going to do well because you got all those things in common. Problem is we don't do enough vetting at the beginning to figure out how many things we have in common. I like you, you like me. That's enough. That's in common. Okay? Some people have very dysfunctional relationships where it's like, I like me and you like me. Now we both have that in common. Anybody married to anybody like that? Don't raise your hand. Okay? I think the problem is we both love you. You know. All right? Anyway. Look, it's almost 10 o'clock. I'm already ready to I just wake up and hit my first stride at about 10, so you guys are in trouble. So, okay. Some people think, oh, he gets punchy. Oh, no, I become more awake. Okay. Anyway, Janet, go ahead.
Yes. No, I was thinking about also marriage, right? Like my husband and I, we were in the church, and we came both together. So I was just thinking, what a blessing, right?
Right.
That we're walking this together because it's so important, and that we're raising our kids in the walk.
Look, my wife and I were first vetting. You know, she instinctually knew to do things like take out her case of CDs, music, to see if we had any common music interests. Okay, and we talked about food. Like, what do we like? Do we like similar foods? We talked about movies and things. What are you going to do together? I mean, you're not just going to sit there and read the Bible all day for the next 40 years of your life. You're going to do things in addition to that, right? So you're going to eat. Do you have anything that you like in common? You're going to maybe watch something. Do you have anything in common? What shows or movies? What do you like? Music? What do you listen to? Okay? Now, we don't agree on everything, but we found there were elements that we did. There's certain music I like that she does, and she does that I don't like. But we have some that we both like, plenty of it, right? Same thing with movies. There's stuff she likes and stuff I like but we have enough that we both like. And so those are things that help keep us in agreement, right? Okay? Now, of course, the most important thing is we have the belief system the same. Okay, that was the foundational, rock in it, right? All right, go ahead.
Yes, Rabbi, I do have a question about, you know how in so many verses, I didn't write them all, but it says that if you obey, if you guard, that it will be well with you and your days will be prolonged.
Right.
So, okay, so I know that there is no commandment that is higher or more important than that, that we should be
Right.
keeping everything. Okay, but when I was reading Commandment 5 or 5, which is respect your father and your mother, and then it says, so that your days are prolonged,
Right.
and so that it is well with you.
Right.
So this is not just talking about that specific commandment, correct? Because it wasn't.
No. What he's trying to say is,
Yeah.
okay, what he's trying to say is there's a different little extra piece to that honoring mother and father thing because it's about learning to honor and respect authority. So all of the it will be well with you has to come from that. Okay, so it's the first commandment with promise, it says, okay? Because there's a promise that if you can figure out authority properly, then you'll be able to figure the rest of it out properly. Now, the first authority in your life, for most of us, it was not necessarily the best authority, but if it was done correctly, the first authority in life is your mother and your father. And I can promise you, if you did not learn to honor and respect your mother and father, you probably didn't respect most authorities in your life for a long time until maybe you figured it out. Because you learned a poor habit of disrespecting authority. Now, it may have been that the authority that you were having issue with was terrible, so that's not an excuse, but it's sort of a justification that, well, it's understandable that you would end up in that place, but then you have to grow out of it, okay? And a lot of people still have, because of very poor experiences with authority, have a real problem with authority, and that's a big struggle with the vertical structure, is because the elements of the vertical structure in their lives has always been bad. So that makes it really tough. And we're trying to undo all that and reestablish that in a better way, right? Okay?
And I have one more very shortly. So it's the last verse. Well, actually, no, it's this Deuteronomy 7, I think it's 10, when it says about repaying those who hate him to their face, to destroy them. This is, so the opposite of loving him, walking it out will be hating him. Is that what it means by hating him?
Right, okay? Those that are aggressively and actively against him and promoting against him and doing things against him, okay? Now, there are those that do that not knowing what they're doing. I don't think he's talking about that. There are those who know exactly what they're doing and they're doing it anyway. Okay, Betty.
Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi. When we were reading the Torah portion about not intermarrying, it brought up the incident with Solomon. In 1 Kings 11, it says that he married women from many nations, and he was told not to, but he did anyway. But in verse 4, it said, and it came to be, when Shlomo was old, that his wives turned away his heart after other mighty ones.
Yep.
And his heart was not perfect with Yahweh, his Elohim, as was his father, David. And so here's a king that had, Yahweh gave him wisdom, riches. I mean, he gave him so much, and yet he was easily turned by his wives to follow other mighty ones.
Okay, that's not what happened.
No.
Oh, it is what happened, but it's not what happened. He was turned by his emotions. Okay? The wives have an incredibly strong pull on a man's emotions. Okay? Had he had more logic and less emotion, he might have been able to say no. But he was pulled by emotion, desire to please his wives. Okay? And so that's where the problem is. So yes, he did do exactly what you said, but I want you to understand that under that, really what the problem was, that women were used to do that the same thing when you see that in right after we deal with Balak and Balaam, right? Is that the women came in and we had a problem. And it wasn't that the women did anything more than just the men wanted to please the women, so they ended up going to do whatever the women were doing. Okay? The women weren't sent in there to say, go and take them away from their God. She said, go get those guys. And of course, the women were like, well, come be with me where I go, into my place, and my gods, and my stuff, and my feasts, you know. And so the emotion, that's the intermarrying problem, okay? you love your wife's not in the walk, you love your husband's not in the walk, you want to please them, the temptation is too, okay? Look, one of the questions that comes up on a regular basis, and then we'll go to the live stream. One of the questions that comes on a regular basis is I'll have somebody call me, especially a wife, and she's had her bubble popped, and I don't know why he does one and not the other so often, okay? It's very rare that he pops both at the same time. But he pops the wife's bubble, and she's like, well, my husband and I are doing pretty good, whatever. She goes, he wants me to come with him to church still on Sunday, but I don't want to do that. See, the heart. She knows she can't do that, but she doesn't want to upset him. She loves him. She wants to please him. There's where it's the tear. I mean, if he was not a nice guy and everything else, he would have been just like, you go to church. I'm not doing that stuff because we already have other problems, okay? But everything else was mostly going pretty good. She loves him. He wants her to come with him. He likes having her with him, which is understandable. He just, wherever he goes, probably just, when he's not working, he wants her to be with him. But I said, but you can't do it. Okay, you can't, you know better now than to walk into Sunday church and hear the stuff you're hearing and be potentially influenced by all of that, okay? But he's going to be all mad. I'm sorry. You got to, Yeshua said, your choosing me is potentially going to cause a problem with family members. So why are we surprised when it happens? Well, we're not surprised that it can happen. We're just upset when it happens to us. We figure, well, let somebody else deal with it. I'm sure they can handle it. No, it's your problem, okay? He's going to figure out what price is too high for you, if there is one. So sometimes people say, why is all this terrible stuff happening in my life? He wants to see if there's a price that's too high. What price is too high for you to stick it out and hold your ground and guard and keep, etc.? Is there a price? Okay. It's really tough when the emotions, though, because if you really love your spouse, that could be really tough. Okay? All right, live stream. Rob and John. Or John, I guess.
Yeah. I'm John.
I know which is which. I know which is which. I just didn't remember which one of you was on the mic.
What you were just talking about, Rabbi, it made me think of 1 Peter 3:1, where it talks about wives being subject to their own husbands, so if they are disobedient to the word, that they, without a word, may be won by their behavior.
Yeah, that's a verse that comes up a lot that I really don't have a comfortable answer for, because I don't know what Paul's really trying to say there. I mean, Peter's really trying to say there. But you still have to do what you're doing, because if and when they get their bubble popped, they need to see that you walked with integrity, because they will be much more, impressed with that, so to speak. It'll make a bigger impression. Okay? If you're going to make a big change in your life, one of the things people need to know around you is, are you just doing something for like a whim for a few minutes, or are you serious? Okay? But the thing is, how you do it in front of other people demonstrates if you're serious or not. Okay? I love you, sweetheart. I don't mean any disrespect, but I'm doing my walk with fear and trembling, etc. You go to church. You know Philippians 2:12. Where I'm at in my walk right now, I can't go to that church. Okay? I'm not judging you for going to that church. It's where I am in my walk, I can't do that. Okay? That also will tell you about how much he loves you, or your wife, if it's the other way around. She loves you, whatever. You have to make that choice. See how they handle when you guys are not on the same page. All right, what else?
All right, from Monica De Leon, thank you for the teaching. How do we know if our petition is a final judgment or is an appropriate request?
If our petition, okay, I think I know what you're trying to say. So in other words, if you're petitioning and he said no, how do you know that that's a final judgment? Or are you petitioning against a final judgment? Okay. Look, you can ask, and then you see the answer is no. You can ask again, see the answer no. I mean, at some point, you should be realizing he's answered you. Okay? You could always get counsel. Okay? Now, by the way, the answer may have just been not now, and he still may give you the yes. But that's why you might need some counsel to figure that out. Okay? But in Moses' case, it was one of those things where he said to him, you're not going in. Okay? Now, he doesn't normally talk to most of us, okay, directly, so we don't know that for sure, all right? But, so what I would do is I would accept things as being his will and say, look, this is still what I wanted. It looks like your answer was no. I'm okay with that. But if it wasn't, if it was just not now, I'd be glad to have that happen at some point, you know? It's that kind of a thing where you're able to move on whether he does it for you later or not, okay? We call that a dayenu moment, all right, where you realize, I appreciate where I am now. I really wanted to go a little further in this particular area, but it looks like that's been shut down. If that's the case, I'm okay with that. I still would love it if the door would be opened, but I'm okay. And then you don't have to bother him again about it, because he already knows. But you're also demonstrating, there's a fruit for heaven right there, that you have dayenu. I appreciate that you brought me this far. Okay? All right? All right, next.
From Alejandro C. About the part when you said if Yah said no, but what if we think it's more of a wait? I know she has a little bit more to it. I think that answered her question maybe, but she says...
Okay, well, the parable with the widow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so she wants to know, what about the parable of the widow who kept asking? It's not so much about, I'm going to pester you, because Yeshua also said that you think you're going to win him over by your many words and you're going to make him do something. It's more about the widow who was asking, okay, was demonstrating, whether she actually said it out loud or not, that she wasn't changing, that she really wanted it, she was determined. Some of you ask, and it's on a whim. Some of you ask, and the next week you don't even think about the same thing anymore. So she was showing that this is something that's serious for me, okay? How many of you have a kid that wanted something, and then next week they don't even remember what they wanted because they want something else, okay? So this is simply saying, like, if you're going to go and petition, Yahweh may make you ask multiple times just to see how serious you are. So you ask. But you don't ask with impatience, and you don't ask because you think that if you ask enough, you're going to make him do something. In her case, I think her asking over time was just a reminder to say, look, I don't know if the answer is not now or no. I just want to make sure I've reminded you that I really would like this, okay, that I was serious, okay? And that's a different, respectful way to do it. So it's similar question. All right, next.
All right, from Norma Silva in Deuteronomy 7:11, Shalom Rabbi, here mentioned commands, the laws, and right rulings. Could you give an example of right ruling, and are they as important as the commandments and laws?
Okay, that's covered in the Millennium Kingdom Part 4. That's a joke for Norma. That's just a joke for Norma. Sorry. All right, look. They're all equal in importance. It's just like in our government, right? We've got statutes, we have laws, okay? And there are other words that we have for different types of laws, okay? And so the different words really just cover different areas of law, okay? And so, and I know my wife did a really good teaching from the Psalms, I think, where she covered the words that are all for these kinds of things, Mishpatim, Torah, Chukim, all of the different things for the different types of laws. And that was actually in the MTOI program that you could get that out of. But for the real answer, though, for you is that it's not that there are any that are more important or less important, okay? They're just different types of rules. So like, right rulings would fit in the idea of judgments, which is like things like, if your ox does this, then this is a judgment of what that is. A law is keep the Sabbath, okay? All right? Do not steal, do not, whatever. These are like laws, okay? So when you start looking at these other ideas, all right, some are called commandments, some are called laws or judgments or right rulings, all right? Just like the chukim are like laws that we're like, don't really know why he said them. Like, why do we need a red heifer? Okay, this is one of the chukim. Laws that he said it, we don't understand it, but he said it, okay? All right, so hopefully that answered the question. Next.
From Olivia Dirth, Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi, in Deuteronomy 4:37, he loved your fathers. Is this Abraham, etc., or
Yes.
their actual? Okay.
No, it's talking about the Abraham, Isaac, Jacob.
And then in 5:3, he did not covenant with our fathers. These are ones from Mitzrayim.
Okay, let me go back and see where you're at here. Yahweh did not make this covenant with our fathers, but with us. Yes. So he's talking about he didn't make this covenant the way he's doing it at Sinai with anybody until then. So you can look at it at any of the fathers. All right? Okay? Because this is where we're going to now start to get the Ten Commandments. But the thing is, when he's talking to them, you can say it's both. It's not the fathers that didn't make it through the desert to Deuteronomy, but also as he's going through the commandments here, this covenant that made this way wasn't made with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. This is the first time it was codified and delivered in this manner. Okay? So it's both, really. Okay? Next.
All right, from Evangeline Algalasso, thank you for teaching us the word. In Deuteronomy 3:21, it tells us what he has done to these sovereigns. In verse 22, do not fear them, for Yahweh your Elohim himself fights for you. Who could be them?
3:21 and 22. Well, it says in the end of the verse, it says, Yahweh does the same to all the kingdoms or reigns which you are passing over. Okay? So it says it right there in the verse. You just stopped short in verse 21. Right? 21 says, and I commanded Yehoshua at that time, saying, your eyes have seen all that Yahweh your Elohim has done to these two sovereigns. Yahweh does the same to all of the reigns which you are passing over. Do not fear them. In other words, you saw what he already did here. He's going to do the same thing when you cross over into the land. Okay? So the them is all of the ites that they were about to deal with when they went across the Jordan. Okay? Next.
All right, from Michael in New Zealand, Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi, in Deuteronomy 4:30 and Luke 1:76 through 77, are these linked to what you meant by Abba seeing us in distress in this world, but he will reveal the good news of repentance back to covenant?
All right. Well, my first answer is wait for the teaching, which I shouldn't have previewed. All right. Yeah, that's going to be in there, yes. Okay, so you're trying to sneak some early information. That's good. You guys are starting to piece together things that may be coming. So in Deuteronomy 4:30, it says, in your distress, when all these words shall come upon your latter days, then you shall return to Yahweh your Elohim and shall obey his voice. And then in Luke 1, it says, and you, child, shall be called the prophet of the Most High, and for you shall go before the face of Yahweh to prepare his ways, to give knowledge of deliverance to his people by the forgiveness of their sins. Okay, so that's all connected, yes.
All right, and this is the last one also for Michael. Deuteronomy 4:33 through 35. Is this a sneak peek of what Yeshua will do with the last generation of Israel as he done before? We will hear the word, go through trials, signs, wonders, and then gathered in the great Exodus.
Okay, hold on. Just wanted to write that down just to make sure how I covered that in the other one. Okay, Deuteronomy 4:33 to 35. As people heard his voice, speaking out of the midst. Okay, all of that. Okay, then what was the question? Is this a sneak peek? Yeshua will do what the sign is. Okay, as has been done before. We will hear the word, go through trials. Yes. Well, it's yes, we'll just put it at that, yes. And it does match up in some ways with what you'll see in Revelation. Again, more signs and wonders and strong hand and all kinds of good stuff. Maybe not such good stuff. Some of the most terrible stuff is going to happen, but yes. Okay, anything else?
Nope, that's it, Rabbi.
All right, excellent. And I'm glad that even you started getting some ideas for the sneak preview of the teaching that's coming, which is good. Okay. Let's see what I wanted to do here just to kind of match up. And we'll mark that. All right. Well, excellent job. Good job with the study. Glad that was a blessing to everybody. All right. All right. So if you'll all rise, we'll go ahead and have the closing blessing.
Baruch Hashem, blessed El. As always, we're grateful and thankful for this time that we get together, a time to open up Shabbat, a time to hear your word, a time to grow and to develop, and to just become more like you, because that is the end goal. We want to be more Yeshua-like and less of ourselves. So we just thank you, Abba, for this. We thank you now for the rest of this evening. Watch us as we go home. Bring us back so that we can continue to celebrate Shabbat, celebrating you, growing, developing, and becoming more like you. We ask all these things in the power and authority of your Son and our Mashiach Yeshua. Amen.
Amen. Excellent job, Mr. Oscar Ortiz. Thank you for the closing blessing. All right, anybody wants to be on camera can come on this side of the room. Okay. Ben's got to come up. Well, she's going to see this when she wakes up. Because right now it is 4 in the morning, 4:30 for her. All right. Well, you're the closest thing to family I got here, so they're standing next to me. That worked out, Ben. There you go. Oh, you guys knock it off. All right. They're all like, oh. Because you know how sentimental I am. All right. All right. All right, so we want to connect with everybody on the live stream. We appreciate them so much. And, of course, Ben and I are going to be specifically waving at my wife and Brianna, okay, who are in France. All right, so we want to wish you guys all a Shabbat Shalom, because you guys have Shabbat everywhere in the world right now. And we're also going to wish you we're going to tell you we love you. How's that? We're just going to do those two things. Shabbat Shalom and we love you. On 3. 1, 2, 3.